what is this dude? Like, what? He just shows up at somebody's house and is like, guess what? You got money. I'm fixing to make this shit cool.
People would search out, who's Matt Moreman, right? Who is this guy? And what I didn't realize is I was one of the world's authorities on how to wash a car. I had no idea. There was chemical guys. There was Larry Cosilla, Ammo NYC, and the Junk Man. And I was like the fourth detailer type guy, car washing guy on YouTube. I feel like I'm destined for something great. Am I supposed to become the CEO of Merrill Lynch someday? Like, I just felt like I was always the young guy outperforming the older guys. And Taylor Swift's dad worked for Merrill Lynch. And so he was the #1 searched Merrill Lynch advisor, and I was #2. Because I said that sucks, I'm saying they suck because they bought that thing that sucks. And so then that's when you get the bad rap, and then that's when they start to disparage. And so they fired me, and I decided I was going to go all in.
Welcome everybody back to Oil and Whiskey. Another banger episode. This week we have Matt Moreman from Obsessed Garage, big YouTube guy. I don't know you personally. I don't think any of us have met. I've actually been watching your videos for quite some time. Obsessed Garage is a perfect name because I would assume, we'll get into this, but you got to have just a touch or a lot of OCD.
Unfortunately, yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Well, glad to have you, man.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Drinking my water bottle. Good to meet you guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, this could be fun. The introduction came by way of Matt Saxton, who spoke very highly of you, and I understand you tuned up his garage.
Matt's almost single-handedly kept me in business. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have customers like that too, right? Where you have a few guys that take good care of you, and so we have mutual relationship. He said, "Look, you need to go on the podcast with these guys." And I said, "Yeah, well, I'm down. I'm always down for everything." So
nice. Yeah, we love Matt because his attention to detail with how he details a car is so damn good that we sold him Phil's old square body, and he had it for like a year, and then Phil bought it back, and that thing came back looking 10 times as nice as when it left. I mean, just tuned
it still looks just as good.
I might sell it to him again for a year.
Phil's been cleaning it just as
it's nice to have customers like that. I'm assuming it's all because of the awesome stuff that you've sold them to get that job.
Well, that's kind of the OG mentality. Is if you let's say you borrowed somebody's tool, I'm going to return it to you cleaner, straighter, better than when you lent it to me. And that's become a little culture, a little subculture of people that share that same attitude. We're all the return our cart, not to the cart return, but like all the way inside and then organize the carts. That's the kind of people that I've somehow aggregated by sharing my, deficiencies and trying to figure out how to turn that obsession into a contribution rather than a negative in my life. It's taken a long time to figure out how to do that, but I just accidentally stumbled into a life of making videos, and it wasn't like that's some grand plan that I'd set up.
That's awesome.
I got to find friends like yours because the tools and stuff that people borrow from me, they come back completely fucked up.
They don't come back.
I mean, you open my toolbox and it's got to be $100,000 worth of broken tools.
Or missing.
Or missing every
stuff.
Useless or needed size.
Before we get too much into the origin story, I'd like to hear the journey of how you even got to where you're at. But I got to ask a question because obviously you're obsessive about everything that you do, specifically detailing, but then also how you build the garages. We've talked about this internally if you've got that mentality and you're obsessed over the details, something's brand new once. But when you get a brand new car, right? And you're going to detail it because you're going to do better than the dealer did, right? It's going to be perfect. And then you got to start driving it. You got to use it, right? And it's the first chip on the headlight, or the thing that you can't get out, or the little scuff that's there or something. And then, or it's a door ding in your brand new truck.
Then you give up on it?
Then it's like it's ruined.
Yeah.
It can be clean, but it's always going to have that. How do you get past that of...
it's a certain level of OCD where once it's imperfect, it can never be perfect again.
Yeah.
So you're like, fuck it.
Just fucking haul hay with it.
That's a great question and a really difficult thing for all of us, no matter what your level of obsession is. Especially, I think it's changed a little bit for me over the years as I've had I'm sure you guys have done this in your life. When you're younger, you're taking a big risk on a car that you really shouldn't be buying, right? You really can't afford it. You're making a big payment, or maybe you took everything you had and put into it. So I found that as time has gone on, although it still hurts me to the core to get that first rock chip or that first problem or the first wheel chip or something. But it doesn't mean quite as much, I feel like, as it did when I was younger. When I was 25 and I'm, betting the farm to get an M3. Yeah. And then I don't want to take it anywhere because I don't want to get it damaged. And then when you do get it damaged, it's like, what do I do? And so I think the thing that's helped me out a lot is to realize, it can be fixed. I can always fix it. Should be easy for you guys. You guys can fix anything. I have to go find somebody to fix it, right? And so that's helped me out a lot in enjoying the ownership experience rather than coveting the car and then having one little imperfection cause me to hate it. But I have done it in the past where, all right, I'm done. This car's dead to me. It's got to go. Got a big, like scratch on the fender, or a jacked up wheel or something like that, and like I'm out, I'm done, or a scratched steering wheel or something, or maybe it's something that's not as easily replaced. Like a scratched fender is the worst thing, right? Because the fender runs down the A pillar, B pillar, and you have to paint the whole car to fix that one scratch.
It's
but
different too,
enjoyment
with used. Like if you get something that's like 2 years old, right, and it's pretty damn good, but you get it and you're like, man, this thing's really nice for 15,000 miles. It's really nice for 2 years old. Yeah. And the little scuff on the interior, like, well, that's the only thing that's wrong with it. So it's cool then. But a brand new car that you get ceramic coated, or you get, paint corrected, and you do all the stuff, and you can't find a flaw except what the OE gave you, like their quality. But there's no scuffs, there's no scratches, there's no nothing. So the first thing that happens is kind of like, we're going downhill.
I'm with you 100%. For the first time in my life, I bought a brand new truck, and 3 weeks after I had it, somebody just whacks it with a wicked door ding. And what pillar is that behind the second
C pillar behind
C pillar? And I was like keeping it super clean. Josh's son was detailing it, and then I just gave up on it because I threw it away. I had one PDR guy try to get it out. He couldn't get it. Now I just last week had another PDR guy came. He knocked it out. So I already called Blaze.
You got him started?
He's putting the detail on it tomorrow. So we're bringing it back.
My son does a lot of detail, and it's been a reason it's just even more of a discussion. We've always had it amongst ourselves, and, building cars and stuff like that. You're always chasing that perfection that's, you can't reach. But you have to chase the perfection to be able to do the quality that we all want to do. My son, sure. He's doing some really nice cars, but he's also doing, daily driver stuff, and he's doing an F-150 that's got, 80,000 miles on it. And he's trying to make the thing perfect, right? And he's calling me. He's like, what do I do? There's like a little scuff on the side of the console, and I saw some videos and like you can heat it up and I was like, dude, clean the thing, right? Get it clean. I know that you want to step back and you want to take those pictures and you're like, I've just restored this to brand new. You're not a restorer. Like you're going to clean it. You're going to do some paint correction. You're going to get it as nice as you possibly can get it. I know you're striving for perfection. And you need to keep doing that, but you've also got to understand you didn't fail because you couldn't restore the latch on the fucking center console, right? It was broke when you got there. Like that's just the way it is.
It's a good detail job. I'm gonna bring my shit in.
He's losing his ass because he's just taking too much time. But
I think the key is you got to draw the line somewhere. And then if you can figure out who you are and what you're about, learn about yourself, then you'll kind of learn what that line is and then learn how to accept it. That's been the hardest thing. And I think you're totally right about the new car versus the used car thing. Some of the cars I've enjoyed the most are the ones that were the most flawed, because then I just felt like I can just enjoy this. And so I did this recently where my favorite car is an E92 M3, and I had one with like 30,000 miles on it that had been repainted. It had been in some sort of collision before I owned it, but it was really well done. But I loved that car, but I didn't covet it. And so I recently traded that. I found one with 800 miles on it, 2013. Some engineer owned it, and he had a spreadsheet where once a month he would go drive it around the neighborhood and then park it and like just get it up to temp. And he had everything documented. It was like my kind of guy. And so I bought that car. It has 800 miles on it. Cost me a fortune. I overpaid for it. So I sold the 30,000 mile car. And in many ways, I enjoyed and liked the 30,000 mile car more than the perfect car, because now the perfect car, anything that gets
Yep.
any little scratch or little, seat scuff becomes, oh man, I just ruined this perfect thing. So there's
It's a
that.
mental. I don't think people understand the mental
It is a curse.
fuckery that
Patinaed
goes.
cars. That's the only way to go.
sure.
Patinaed, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you say that, but then you're always the first one to walk by and be like,
That's a new dent. That's a new scratch. That's
Who fucking scratched that?
whole side is
Yeah, but I'm
fucking.
not mad. It's now there. I've patinaed it.
We need to
now.
do what the sneaker guys do, where they buy two sets of Jordans, right? One to
Yeah.
wear and one to keep.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
So
that's
maybe
difficult
the
with
way to-
supercars, though. It gets real difficult.
Yeah, right. For sure.
So take us through how this got started, man. What was your obsession like at 13, 14, 15 years old?
So, do you guys remember Matchbox cars?
Of course.
Right? Matchbox, Hot Wheels,
Hot
right?
Wheels was always better than Matchbox, but yes.
See, I was the opposite.
What?
Hot Wheels were cooler. I believed that Matchbox at 3 or 4 years old were superior engineered, right? Because they had, less plastic, more metal. And so the best way I can describe who I am as a human, when I was a kid, I would have, remember the little flip up cases, and the cars like went in their own little sections.
Yep.
But my cars never touched each other. And if you push on a Hot Wheels or a Matchbox, the wheels would camber out and break, right?
They're
So I
ruined.
made sure to never put too much pressure on them. And so what I would do as a kid, I'd get out all my little fold up cases and I'd lay the cars out, and I would distill it down to, okay, what are the next? So there's 100. Let me distill it down to 25, and then let me distill it down to 10. And then I had one of those mats on the floor, those big plastic mats, and there was one house that was my house. And so that day, my job was, we're going to pick the two cars that went in the garage. So what were my two favorite cars that day? I would get them, I'd put them in the garage, and then I was done, and I would take them all and put them all back in their cases, dust them off, and put them away. They never went outside. They never got, banged together. No friends ever got to see or touch them. And so that was me at like 4 years old.
What year was this?
I was born in 1980, so
All
that
right.
would have been 85. I'm
So
40.
all the clinical diagnoses weren't in vogue like they are now.
We lived in a single wide trailer, but my mom it comes from my mom and my grandmother. So my mom, you were either inside or outside. When you came inside, that was it. She would take the socks off our feet. She would have us wipe our hands and wipe us down, get immediately in the shower. She would then have the laundry already done before we were out of the darn bathtub, So, and I wasn't allowed to do anything. Like, I didn't do dishes. I didn't cut grass. My parents did everything. They were very particular. The weird thing about it is, you would have thought I would have become a waste of life because they did everything for me, but then it just transitioned when I went on my own. It was like I just continued that lifestyle.
You had more time to do other shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, you become particular, so that gets really difficult when you have to hire somebody to do a job that you maybe can't do, or if you're hiring a job that you don't have time to do, but you know how good you could do it. I've dealt with that on the landscaping side of things, on getting grass cut.
Yep.
I'm a very particular guy on that, and
I'm with you.
it's difficult when you're like, man, I didn't have to do it, but I sure could have done a better job. Man, that sucks.
I can totally relate to that. Yeah. Yep. That difficulty of, one, you got to let somebody in, right, which is difficult to do, and then knowing. There's a bit of narcissism in this, but knowing that you can always do things better, quicker, more efficiently. And now I'm a business owner with 30, 40 employees. I've had to really develop that gene or develop that skill. It doesn't come naturally to me. If I'm a leader, my idea of leadership is, if we're going to dig a ditch, I'm going to jump in front and dig as fast and as hard and as most efficient way possible and just fall in line. And as a business owner, that doesn't really work, because then
if you have to be
build a win.
building
You're
like
stealing.
5 ditches in 5 different locations. You need to have some guys at other places.
Right, exactly. So, growing up, my parents sort of had that obsessed example. Mainly my mom and my dad just kind of supported that. And the thing that really came to a head for me in 6th grade, I went to visit my grandmother in the hospital, and she just had like knee surgery, and she goes to puke in one of those little puke cups, and I'm like, man, I feel funny, and so I started sprinting, dead sprint, to get out of that room, and as I'm sprinting out of that room, the lights went out, and I passed out, ran into a wall, and so most of my life I've been obsessed with that fear of the lights turning out, and it's called vasovagal syncope. So I pass out, and it was, I was growing up as a kid, as a teenager, and then in college. Like if I ever had like my teeth, like my wisdom teeth pulled, I would pass out in the waiting room, and it was never a problem outside of the doctor's office. So that was my trigger. And in 2014, I was the senior resident director. I was a senior vice president at Merrill Lynch. I was a pretty successful financial professional. I was a financial advisor, and I was managing a bunch of money for people. So I had a lot of responsibility, and I was also the director for the office. So I managed the office. So I had a lot of responsibility. At the time, I had I had a Carrera S, so I got my first Porsche 2014 991.1 Carrera S, which I coveted. Right, I probably shouldn't have bought it. I bought it a little early, and I had a B8 Audi S4 that I kind of liked, but I was about to get my new F80 M3 at the time. It was on order, and something happened. My wife delivered our second child. I don't like that when they say we had a kid. We didn't have a kid. She had a kid.
Dude,
I
so
couldn't
with
handle
you.
having.
That
There's
shit
no way I
drives
could
me
handle
nuts.
having a kid. But
No-
I was in the
no
I
truer
was in the
statement.
delivery room when I passed out there, and then I think I'd taken all the weight of the world on me. I wouldn't let my assistant open an account for me because I didn't think she could do it right. Going back to what you were saying before, I wouldn't let anybody help me do anything. Like I would come help you guys move, but I would never, like if I was going to move, I would never ask for help from you. So I had this cool car, and cool cars. I had a really cool garage, and I had a nice house. I was pretty successful, but I was doing it all alone, all by myself. And so my wife delivered Kate. I pass out. A week later, we go to do the photos, like the goofy family, baby photos. And so they're doing the photos of the baby and my wife. And I go to the store with my son, who was 3 at the time. And I was scrolling Facebook while he's looking at the Ninja Turtle aisle. And somebody had stomach surgery, and the Black Death came over me in the door.
Damn.
And so it never happened. Now, I didn't pass out, but I was close. But it had never happened to me where I almost passed out anywhere but a doctor's office. So something in my brain broke. And I think it had a lot to do with all this weight to the world that I'd taken on and closed everybody out, and this introversion. And something clicked in my brain where I'm like, holy crap, like this could happen anywhere, anytime, any day. And then my worst nightmare is that I was panic attacking in the car, just pure panic attack while I'm driving in the car, which is my great sanctuary, my love, to get my Porsche and go for a drive. And I got my son in the back, and I'm freaking out, pulling over every few feet. And so I was in an endless, I was introduced to what anxiety was. So I was in this endless OCD obsession of I could pass out any moment, combined with being very particular about my car, in particular about my socks, in particular about my shoes, in particular about everything in my life, just overly obsessed with every single thing. This compulsion to like make sure everything was perfect. And so I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't go to work, couldn't drive for about 2 months. And I had to like admit that I needed some help. I would have scoffed at this, before. You loser, why would you need to go to a psychiatrist? So I went to a psychiatrist. They formally diagnosed me with OCD, which I didn't know that I had. And then he put me on some Prozac bull crap. I gained 50 pounds, and, it was a terrible experience. But I had to go meet with a therapist. Yeah, I promise there's a point to this story. But my therapist was this goofy guy. The table in this office was like made out of hockey sticks that he made in like his garage. There's papers everywhere.
He
Driving
had
me
like
fucking nuts.
white New Balance, his diploma's crooked, just a total mess.
He's doing that
But
to
I'm
fuck
like-
with you.
Right at the
I'm
point
like
of
sitting in a chair like this, just can't, like freaking out. Like the guy's not even gonna touch me. But like, what if? Like just fearful of everything. And so through a few appointments, he came to the conclusion, said, look, dude, and I'm listening because I'm broken. This guy I would have judged before, said, this guy's a loser. He's a mess. He's not me. He's not as good as me. But because I was broken, I was willing to listen. I was open to it. I wasn't seeing all this crap all over the place. That wasn't bothering me. I was so humbled by, life at the moment that I listened. And so he said, dude, I think you need to make some friends. I was like, okay. Now I have an engineering background, so I got a spreadsheet out and said, what's the most efficient way to meet the most amount of people possible? And so I started journaling on Renlist and M3 Post, right, the two car forums, and what because I saw this one guy had made a journal of like all the things that he did when he got the car, and so I said I can probably do a really good job at that. And so I started just writing out, taking great photos, and writing descriptions of all the things I did. What's my washing process? When I got a radar detector, here's the radar detector install, changing the oil for the first time, doing different exhaust swap to try to find the exhaust that I liked the most. And then somebody in the Ren list said, it'd be better if you made a video of the wash process. And I said, well, this Canon camera I have also does video. And so I set the camera up and I just started talking to it. And what I didn't realize is I was one of the world's authorities on how to wash a car. I had no idea. I just thought everybody knew how to do it this way. I also learned that because I had a really good job, I could buy a lot of things and try them. And I loved shopping for things and the trial and error of things. Because I had a good job, I could throw it away or give it away when I found something that I thought was going to be good that wasn't very good. So I had a lot of product experience that I just assumed that everybody else had. And so I came to this epiphany that, man, I could stand in front of a camera for like an hour straight and talk about the virtues of this particular surfactant in this soap, and why the detergents made the surfactant work. I was talking about all this nerdy crap. And I'm using this German pressure washer with American fittings and a Swiss gun, and I'd modified it just like we modify our cars. So everything in my life was modified in particular and chosen after trial and error of dozens of things. And so the YouTube channel became the thing instead of the journal. And so then I just started making videos. And it was therapy for me. There was no grand plan. It was a way for me to let people in, get out of my own head. I was probably the third person. There was chemical guys. There was Larry Cosilla, Ammo NYC, and the junk man. And I was like the fourth detailer type guy, car washing guy on YouTube. And so, in 2014, it changed my life to let others in and start talking about the things that I was passionate about. And so then that, one thing led to another. Next thing I know, I'm, making some t-shirts and sold a bunch of t-shirts. And then next thing I know, I made a website just because I was really annoyed with people wanted me to put lists of all the products with links in the description. I'm like, I got a job, man. I don't got time for that. I'm really just making these videos as a form of therapy. But I was saying what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it, whether it was offensive or not, whether I was going to get canceled. There was no canceling back then. That's a new thing. I was just doing me in my way. And a lot of people tended to resonate with it. So I had 5,000 people following and then 10,000 people. I'm like, well, this is crazy. I went from introversion in my garage in Podunk, Florida to having 10,000 people listen to what I have to say. And so people started making this connection. Like, he doesn't have it because I got a GT3 and then I got an FE80 M3. And then one of the things that really kind of put me on the map is when the 991-1 GT3 came out, I didn't buy that you would just take a 997 exhaust and put it on it. I wanted an exhaust. And so I did 15 different exhaust trials and I shared all of that. I went to the dyno and just did my engineering nerd thing and shared that with people. And that resonated with a lot of Porsche guys. And then when I got a GT350, whatever I did with that, it resonated with them. And when I got, different cars, a Raptor and things like that, it resonated with a new audience. And so I thought about a year in, I'm like, man, I was doing golf lessons. I was hosting golf lessons with a golf pro at Merrill Lynch in a suit. I don't play golf. I was hosting wine tastings with a sommelier or whatever those guys are called, and I don't drink. And so here I am faking it to get clients when, man, I could just
You do what you
Probably get
love.
these car guys. I could get these car guys to become clients because I don't know if you know how the finance business works. You don't get clients. They don't give you them. You got to go find them. You got to make relationships and convince people to let you manage their life savings, which is not easy to do.
Then you got to make sure that you tell them about the 2 buckets. You know, you got this bucket where you put this money and this bucket where you put this. Every finance guy I've ever talked to, like, dude, if you talk about the motherfucking buckets one more time, I'm going to put the buckets.
See, I was the guy. So I was the guy that you guys would have wanted managing your money. One, because I'm the Matchbox psychopath, right? So I'm the guy you want in charge of your money. I was also the guy because we would have had a lot in common. So I thought that the Obsessed Garage thing that I eventually called it was just a conduit for me to not have to do golf lessons anymore. I could get clients that I had a lot in common with rather than just people who were retired that like to golf, that I don't like either one of those. I don't plan on retiring ever, and I don't play golf. And so what happened eventually, so 2014 started the channel, 15 just started to figure out that this could be my connection to get clients. Merrill Lynch started to catch on to the videos because Taylor Swift's dad works for Merrill Lynch, and so he was the #1 searched Merrill Lynch advisor, and I was #2. And so people started to figure out, like, if this guy's always talking about wax this much, what does he do for a living? Because there's no way he's buying a GT3 and an M3 if he's just a car washer. Right. And so people started to try to figure out who I was.
Really,
and so then
lent some credibility, you know, when people are looking at that and they're like, oh, this guy's a successful, intelligent guy. It's just not some
that was what my
random
hope
dude,
was.
you know?
Correct. And so people would search out, who's Matt Moreman, right? Who is this guy? What is he about? And so I built the website, obsessedgarage.com, and a buddy from church made the logo, and whatever the logo is. And I hope he doesn't sue me someday because I never got an NDA on it. But this logo I think might be worth something someday. And so I made the website mainly just to put links to things so I didn't have to put it in the description of the videos. Because I wasn't going to sell anything. I wasn't going to retail products. I wasn't going to be designing garages. It had nothing to do with it. I was just going to get clients in wealth management. And this was a way for me to just share what I'm passionate about. Well, I set up an Amazon payments account for something, and Amazon shut my account down. It like triggered some sort of automatic fraud thing. And, you know, we all had our Amazon account since like 99. I got a 20-year-old, 16-year-old Amazon account. And I had started to do the affiliate link thing, like all of us douchebag, influencers do, right? And so I was making like, I don't know, $1,200 a month from these links that I had sent out and put on videos and things like that. And so when Amazon shut my account down, and I realized how annoying it was to try to buy this crazy German pressure washer that I was using, because I had to send 12 links to people to all these different parts and pieces. And I was getting emails all day, not about wealth management, but what quick disconnect do I need to put my foam cannon on my pressure washer? So just out of pure annoyance, being annoyed, I decided to build this website so that I could just make it easy for people. And then when they shut my Amazon account down and I lost that $1,200, I said, man, I'm kind of building this house on somebody else's land. And so I decided to call the pressure washer company and the gun company and the quick disconnect company and try to convince them to let me buy them wholesale. And I was taping fittings in my living room. Now, keep in mind, I'm like a pretty successful finance guy. I'm making lots of money, and I'm in my living room taping fittings, packing boxes in my darn kitchen. And so I called my parents a few weeks later and asked them if maybe they would consider doing that for me. But before I launched the pressure washer, I thought I'd just sell it to the Renless guys, a couple Renless guys. So I reserved 15 pressure washers, 15 guns, 15 sets of disconnects. And I posted 13 videos on YouTube at the same time. Now I had about 70,000 subscribers. So I just posted every piece of the pressure washer in a separate 3-minute video. And so I had 5,000 subscribers unsubscribe that day. I'm like, oh, shoot, I kind of messed up. But the next morning I woke up and I had like 200 emails on my inbox saying, I'm ready to buy that pressure washer. By the way, it was $1,600 for the Krenzel pressure washer. That first month I sold 50 grand. The next month I sold 60 grand. The next month I sold 80 grand. I didn't even have the darn things yet. And so.
Well, I gotta stop you right there, because that's an interesting concept that comes. We discuss this all the time, like on YouTube. When you focus exclusively on followers versus your core customer base. I mean, that's a prime example. You gave up 5,000 followers, and who knows who they were? I mean, they could have been kids. They could have been some dude in on somebody else's Wi-Fi in Bangladesh, but you received a tremendous amount of inquiries, which
was wild.
That's always like an internal battle here as we look at like our marketing strategy, and it's like, oh, you always want to have followers, build that audience.
Yeah, if you get 5,000 people to unsubscribe, right? Take the act of unsubscribing because they were annoyed at the 13 notifications or whatever from the videos. I doubt that they would have ever spent money with you. You know, that's if you go through the act of saying, you know what, log back on here, unsubscribe, stop sending me notifications for car wash stuff. Is that the same guy that's gonna be like, you know what, fucking $2,000 for a pressure washer kit and all that kind of stuff? Absolutely. It's probably different, like you're saying. It's
it was weird for me because I'm a grown up in a kid's, you had to be successful at enrolling others in some sort of entertainment, right? Versus I was enrolling people in me because I've been very vocal about OCD and why I was doing this and sharing this, and without fear of what is somebody going to think of me or think less of me. And I'll finish the story here because that got me in real trouble at one point. But there was no like business plan. There was no like I set out to do this. And so I had to really, like, a lot of people resonated because there's only like one of me in every town, right? But there's a lot of towns in America, and each one of us are usually pretty introverted, so we never meet anybody. Yeah. And so what the phenomenon for me was that I was aggregating other crazy people too that valued the same things that I valued. And if prior to social media, prior to this leveraging or this scalable engine that Facebook and Instagram and YouTube has done for us, I would have never been able to build the business like this. You guys may have had a difficult time as well. How do you aggregate a great customer base or a great group of people that are like-minded if there's only one of us in every town? But if with social media we can aggregate all of us, so if you think about it positively, so I have such great things to say about the social platforms because it's changed my life. I would have never been able to do anything like this if I would have built a retail store and tried to sell a $1,600 pressure washer. I would have been out of business on day 2. Yeah. Right. I'm the only customer in my town. Right. And so even if I ran ads in the newspaper, there's probably maybe one other guy that would want something like that. But yet here we are with this scalable engine of reaching other like-minded people, but doing it authentically. I found it's been bug repellent to entitlement. It's to goofs that I don't want to be in relationship with. That's only thing the subscriber number gets. Like I probably don't get on this podcast with you if I have 20,000 subscribers, right? Now we had a personal connection, but I'm sure that your team looked at, well, he's got 600,000 people following him, so maybe he has something to say. If I had 6,000 people following me, your podcast organizer probably would have said, nah, call me back some other time, kind of thing. It does open doors for you to have some number. That's really the only thing it does.
Valid point.
Yeah. It's got to legitimize who you are and the base.
It's you got to have both. You want a large number, but you want a large number of core people that are consuming all the things that you're putting out, specifically product wise. Before you finish the story, I want to know, along this way, right? You're still working at Merrill Lynch, you're doing this. A lot of the stuff you're doing out of frustration, you're like, oh, let's do the website. Oh crap, we're building. You're moving fast, right? And you're obsessed about, at any point in time, or how long through the process are you enjoying the moment? Are you laying down? Are you talking to your wife at night? Are you saying like, dude, I'm actually like, this is a healing. This is therapy. Like, I'm getting better. What point along the way can you like stop and sniff just the personal roses of like, shit, this is what I need?
Last week? No. I said to my wife at one point, she's like, what are you doing? Because I'm like working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, So I would go in, and I had my wealth management practice pretty well oiled machine. I had junior partners, and so I didn't have to do quite as much. 15 years in or so, But I'm building this website, and I'm taking photos in the garage, and I'm making videos, and I'm editing it, and I'm doing it all myself. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know, but I think I'm onto something." This was at like 5 or 10,000 subscribers. I said, "This just, first of all, it's helping me get out of my own head. I'm meeting people. Like, I'd put it out there, hey, I'm putting a new exhaust on, and I have 10 people show up to come help me." And I was a bit naive at times and just saying, "Hey, whoever wants to come on over."
Here's my address. Go on.
Is she looking at you
Now,
like this is a midlife crisis situation? Like, you're a very successful guy and you're in the garage, like after hours playing on YouTube. Like, it's just a simple way of putting it. I mean, that's not the reality of it, but
my wife is so chill that she probably didn't put a whole lot of thought into it. But there were a few times where, like, I can't go on vacation. I've got like stuff to do. Or I'd be traveling around to like McGuire's, or I'd be going to SEMA for a week. And I'd be, talking to the market would be down 300 points. I'd be walking through SEMA, talking somebody off the ledge, kind of thing. And she would be like, "What are you doing here?" And I just said, "Man, I feel like," forgive the arrogance of this, but at one point early in my life, I said, like, I feel like I'm destined for something great. Am I supposed to become the CEO of Merrill Lynch someday? Like, I just felt like I was always the young guy outperforming the older guys, and I had just had something about like my life that felt. And what I know now is I was an entrepreneur, and I had no idea what that meant. I had no modeling of that. I had no one in my family who was an entrepreneur. I had no idea. I didn't know it, even at well-educated 20-something, still wasn't sure what I was on to, but I just knew that there was something there that was connecting me to the world by using YouTube as therapy. There was something interesting about it that I just couldn't put my finger on. But it's funny you mentioned that. Or anybody thinking you're crazy, like, what are you doing? Yeah, everybody was. What are you doing? You got this great career. What is going on?
Very similar.
And so that led.
You guys have a podcast, huh?
Yes.
yeah, that's definitely similar.
So how many times y'all do that?
Yeah.
So that led me to what happened in 2018. So by then I'm selling millions of dollars of stuff, pressure washers, my car washing package
From home.
and
This is from home?
Well, actually from my parents' house, right? So I'm in Florida, they're in Pennsylvania. So my old bedroom, they had an 1,800 square foot house, and I had microfiber towels stacked up. We're sending them case loads of microfiber towels and pressure washer hoses, and they were doing it on the side, packing and shipping the stuff. I was paying them like $700 a month, and
That's awesome.
we just as a little side income for them. By the way, my mom runs my warehouse, and my dad runs my wholesale division now. They're in their early 60s, and they're
so
killers,
cool.
man.
Those
people,
cool.
they do not stop. They're machines. And so the shipping of the product, putting it, sending things out. When you're a financial advisor, you have to submit what your outside business activity is. And so one of the outside business activities, because I monetized the YouTube channel, I got my first $100, so I had to report that, and I had to report that I'm selling like, I don't know, $3 million worth of stuff, right? And I'm making, I don't know, a 30% margin when I'm making like $1 million selling this stuff. And so outside of my normal business. And so Merrill Lynch started looking like, well, what's going on here with these videos? Like, what are you doing here? Like, and then they started watching them. They secretly, in compliance, I think, became fans. But because I was getting so many inquiries about who was I, what did I do for a living? I was having to be on the phone all the time telling people my life story. And so I made a video series called This Is Me. And so I said, this is my story. It was like 9 episodes of same thing I'm telling you, just longer form. And so the Merrill Lynch people started watching the This Is Me series, and then they wanted to edit it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you can't say this, you can't say that, you're giving away trade secrets. I talked about cold calling, and I talked about building a mailing list and a retirement newsletter, and that's how I got customers and how I was relentless with that. And I found that me sharing that was really sort of a testimony for other young men that were watching me, to like show, here's an example of how you get a GT3. And so they were censoring me, wanted me to take a bunch of stuff down. And so I left Merrill Lynch and I went to Raymond James. And so I took my practice there, and I was going to call it Obsessed Wealth Management. Well, fast forward a bit, I had made it's a long story, but I made a weight loss challenge bet with a friend of mine who's now my COO. He didn't work for me at the time, but I lost the weight loss challenge, and he's kind of he's just a real chill guy, and he had a Ford Focus, open-headed Ford Focus with no air conditioning, and if I lost the bet, I had to drive that for 2 weeks. I had to vlog it, and I'd never done a vlog. And he got to drive my Raptor and my GT350. And if I knew how bad a driver he was, I probably wouldn't have let him borrow them. But I made I called it 2 weeks of a day in the life of the obsessed. And I just carried my camera everywhere I went, including my office. I didn't even think anything of it. They all knew what I did at Raymond James. And so then I got fired. So imagine 15 years in, all the clients from clients that I found, like they didn't give them to me. And I brought them all with me from Merrill Lynch. And so I'm making, just, you can do the math, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And they just fired me, like out of the blue. And so to me, it was now this is my second OCD meltdown of not being able to drive, not being able to eat, not being able to sleep because they're suing me, and rightfully so. Now that I know they were in the right, I was in the wrong. I should have never taken my camera into my office. I shouldn't have. What they were concerned with was that, and I'm talking about OCD, and they're like, is this guy stable? Sure. You know, because I was sitting in the parking lot talking about OCD and how some days I have better days than others. And so I found myself in an office with a conference room with like the SEC and FINRA and like regulatory attorneys. And so I didn't do anything wrong, but they weren't sure, like, is this marketing? Because after I made that vlog, I got like 20 appointments with new, and I got like 10 new clients. And my argument to them is like, look, I'm not selling mutual funds. I'm just sharing my life. And I showed that I have a certified financial planner designation, and I have all these diplomas. And it's like, hey, check out my business card. I just got my new ones here. I wasn't trying to market. I was just sharing life. And my argument to them was, this is how I could become like one of the biggest financial advisors in the world, because I'm going to find and aggregate a niche of people that identify with this. And so they fired me, and I decided I was going to go all in. And so then I sold $4 million worth of stuff that year, and then $10 million worth of stuff that year, next year, and then $20 million. And so, but I'm selling all the stuff that I love. And the thesis was, rather than me selling a bunch of car soap, I sell one soap, the soap that I think is the best, because I'm taking all this obsession, all this aggregation of all this trial and error, and now the access I had to the industry and all this information. And then I don't know if the soap I'm using is the best in the world, but there's a good shot that it probably is. And worst case scenario, it's going to be really good. And so the audience really started to identify with that. And so 6 months after I left wealth management, I thought I'd have to sell my cars and sell my house and start over with like a VW Golf or something, and kind of build my way back up. But I never had to do that. By the end of that year, I got fired. I had 8 employees. My parents moved down from Florida. I got a warehouse, and now I've got 30 something employees in a 30,000 square foot warehouse. And I'm opening up a design center, and I'm starting to ship in Canada and Australia and the UK. And so the rest is history. That this obsession problem turned into a contribution, I would hope. The only reason anybody's buying anything from me is because they see I'm providing them hopefully some value. Whether it's talking about obsession, talking about the latest diet I'm on, talking about just recently, I built a spreadsheet of all the spatulas and flatware and glasses and plates, because I just bought another investment house. And so I built a spreadsheet, and I said, hey, if you want me to send you the spreadsheet, I didn't even think about this. If you want me to send you the spreadsheet, let me know. And I've sent it to like 3,000 people or something like that, of a spreadsheet of what spatula I'm using to flip my eggs. But that concept of obsession, I don't get to shut it off. Like, I don't walk into my garage, take the obsession out of my pocket with my wallet, my keys, put it in the drawer, and walk into the house. And so it follows me everywhere I go. I'm obsessed with home theater. I'm obsessed with the faucet. I'm obsessed with the organization of the refrigerator. And so I've learned that there's value in that, not arrogance, not better than, because the yin to my yang is that sometimes I can't function. And so it's not a better than thing. And I do get a lot of that pushback because I'm very matter of fact about stuff. But the change in my life is that I found, I think I'm on to something. And I really was on to something several years ago.
Well, you've certainly found a way to monetize it. You know, that's to embrace it, monetize it,
yeah.
And then it allows you to buy more things than to be more obsessed about. And it probably just snowballs.
Rocket fuel.
It's like it expands, you know?
It's like rocket fuel now. So now you've given me rocket fuel to the obsession, right? To now I'll buy, like, I'm into tools right now. I'm sure you guys are into tools too, but I'm into like Japanese, like Koken ratchets and Stallvilla wrenches and Wira screwdrivers. And so I'm, the equivalent to eating ice cream to me is to get a 300-page catalog from Koken in Japan and I carry that catalog around for like 2 weeks straight. And then before I place my order for Koken, I probably spent, 200, 300 hours just obsessing over, well, what's the difference between this ratchet and that ratchet? And then now that I have resources and a reason, I get to write it off, then I'll circle the catalog and I'll buy like $20,000 worth of tools and have them all come and lay them out. And then I open them up and I straighten them out. And then I'm like, well, I don't really like this one. I don't really like that one. And I'm not a mechanic, but I am a professional shopper. And so the mechanic is the person usually gets marketed to by somebody like me, who usually doesn't know what the heck they're talking about because they haven't used the tool and they also don't really know it. They haven't compared the other tools that are available. So although I use tools, not to the level like you guys probably do, but I am in this unique spot where I'd be willing to bet none of you is going to carry around a 300-page catalog and digest it every day for 10 hours a day for, 2 months. And so I found that there's real value in that. Take that obsession, direct Sauron's eye to the catalog, if you will, and then let it do its thing, which I love doing. And then I love then sharing with people what I learned in that process. And so I'm probably the only person in the world that has done that with that catalog, and so learning the value, that there can be some value in that. And then the money to me is just a result. I couldn't care less about it. The money is just, I never think about it. It just, if it comes, it comes. Now I have to think about it from the employee aspect to make sure I can make payroll and do that. But the money part just comes from providing the value of taking this really negative thing, diverting it toward good rather than evil, and then hoping I can figure out a way to provide people some value. And then that just gives me more rocket fuel, gives me more resources to go and do more of that with something else.
You're like the human version of Cliff Notes. You kind of go through everything, figure out all like the cheat codes and what's good, what's bad, and then present it out there. So you're doing all the homework for everybody else. It's kind of a home run.
And so if you go to obsessgarage.com, it's not a retail store. In fact, if you're like insulting me if you call me a retailer. It's a curated experience where I'm selling you one soap. I'm selling you, well, there's 3 soaps, but the 3 soaps have 3 different purposes. One is for regular washing, one is for reset washing, and one is for decon washing prior to polishing. And then those are 3 of the best soaps in the world, and they're from 3 different companies, 3 different places. One's from Car Pro out of Korea, the other one's Kosh Chemi out of Germany, and then the other one's one I had to make myself because I couldn't find the one that I wanted. Actually, it was an old Chemical Guys product, which Chemical Guys kind of sold out several years ago. But it was an old Chemical Guys product that they discontinued, and I had to reverse engineer it with their permission. And so that product we used to decontaminate prior to polishing and then coating or waxing. But I have no interest in just trying to capture every retail sale. I want to narrow it down and tell people what to buy. Here's what I love. Here's why. All the descriptions are written in my voice. Either I wrote it or somebody writes in my tone of voice. And there's a video and there's tutorials and things on how to use it. And then if that soap, if they screw it up or I find some better soap, that brand is on notice that I've got to move on. I got to fire you and hire someone else.
Along the line, when did the installs and the GC started coming in to where you're going on site and do it? Because the first time I came across you, I think this was mid pandemic time. You were doing a series on YouTube that it was a garage install. It had the built-in wash bay, and then I think
that's John's garage in Atlanta. Yeah, it was 5,000 square feet.
I was watching like every week you were doing a new episode. You were doing stuff, and you had the the cool office upstairs with all the glass, and I mean there's like all the theater inside, and you're doing all the but you do such a great job of like. I geek out on the stuff too of like we're gonna lay out the wrenches, we're gonna do all this kind of stuff, and
I know it, dude. We've been friends for a long time.
You like the air hose routing too in the hard line?
Yeah, everything in it. But you start going. It was the first time where I'm watching something that you're not from an arrogant standpoint. You're not kind of like, oh, that probably works, but I bet you like if you're actually using it, like that's probably going to be a problem. Like every time you're starting to think something, he's like, well, this is how this is going to do. And you're like, oh, fuck, they thought about that. And then he thought about that, and he thought about that, and that's how the drain's going to be. And then like you got the vacuum, it's right there, but you also got a vac. Like, so that's where I started watching, and then I started doing like back digging and all your stuff, whatever. I was like, what is this dude? Like, what? He just shows up at somebody's house and is like, guess what? You got money. I'm fixing to make this shit cool. But I watched like every single episode of that build. And then more recently, I watched everything or most everything that you did with Adam LZ down in his compound. And along the way, when did that come in?
Don't tell anybody. We don't have a license, right? So I believe that I don't want to get in the labor business. I'm not in the labor business. I'm not in the install business. So after we had gone through detailing, then we went into flooring and lighting and cabinets and tools and all the things that go all the way down to the light switches in the garage. Shoot, I have a darn signature Benjamin Moore paint color that everybody uses in the garage. It's called AC-25 silver chain. It used to be called Harbor Gray. I probably sold more darn Harbor Gray than Benjamin Moore, because a lot of people will match it with Sherwin-Williams. I probably should have figured out how to bottle it and sell it to people. But the thing that I really discovered early on was that I want to create an end-to-end solution of everything in the garage. This is another, I'm telling on myself here a little bit too much, but I know, like right now in my head, I have, I think, probably 70 drawers in my garage. I know what's in every drawer photographically. Like I can open each drawer and tell you a list of every single thing that's in that drawer down to the nut and screw at any given time. It's not, I didn't try it. It's just, I can't shut it off. And so there's value in that. And so I said, well, our next logical step is people are asking us to put together a cabinet and lighting, and then what detailing supply should they get? So I'm sending emails out to people of aggregate. Here's a list of everything you need to do. Should I send you an invoice? And so then I decided, well, we need to make a design division. And so I now have 6 designers that we 3D render and design and draw up the garages. Now, I view design as a content resource. And so that guy, John, he flew down and he put his Amex on the table and he said, look, I want you to do this for me. And you just do whatever you want. As long as I can have some input on color and choice, do what you would do if this was your garage. And so we went up there and did the work. And I probably shouldn't be doing the work, but I loved it. I loved the work. I loved to make the choice. And John was so cool because he said, what else do you need? And I'd be like, well, we really need the Milwaukee Master Collection that I put together of the 52 Milwaukee tools and then all the accessories. And he said, all right, well, get it. And then he would be like, all right, what else do we need? I said, we decided to do 2 hose reels. We should probably do 4. It just feels better. And then he let me choose, like, where does it need to be? And then doing that, he got a great result. And then I did another garage where the other guy saw what that guy did, and he said, here's my Amex. I want to do the same thing.
Damn.
And so I don't have aspirations to go, and then I'm out here at this project in Boise, Idaho at the Rag Company, because they saw that and said, hey, I want you to do that. And so maybe I'm fighting again, annoyed that people want me to come do it. So maybe there's a business in there that I need to be thinking about. What I view these big projects, because very few people are going to be able to do that in life. I view the big projects as giving everybody a little ideas.
Yep.
And so then I have a scalable business behind that, where if I could sell my bucket package to 10,000 people because they saw it in that one really cool garage. And so now, once or twice a year, I go and do a really cool project and take my team. And I hired one of my best friends who's a master craftsman who can do all the trades. He can do everything. So he's kind of behind the scenes right now. They're in there cutting the flooring and rerouting the air compressor piping and all that stuff. So the Adam LZ project was, Adam and I are friends from early on. He's taught me a lot about YouTube and engagement, and I've taught him a lot about life and business, and so we've had a great relationship. I could be his dad, I'm like 18 years older than him. But Adam had this house, so I don't do houses. I'm a garage guy, right? But I'm obsessed with refrigerators and faucets and sinks
and lights and switches and
Just
home theater and
mechanical
speakers
things.
and closet racking, and then where the so you watched that Adam LZ one where he
Yeah, I gotta watch it. Honestly, I haven't seen it.
I don't understand from a healing standpoint how you've gotten, and then you get to that point to where it's all of those things, like that rush of. I wanted to ask specifically about that. One, it's the house. It's the biggest project that I've ever seen that you do, and you obsess over everything, the dishwasher and the drain for the dishwasher, and the other things are going in. But even that project's so big. But then you've also got Adam's entire compound. So you've got everything else that you're having to see that you're also probably not touching, right? So you're looking at the landscape and you're seeing all these other garages and you're thinking all that.
He stresses me out big time.
Yeah. We're back to the very beginning of this conversation when it was like knowing when to stop, right? You can't make his entire property brand new and obsessed. You can't take the concrete and be like, well, we should do this and we should do the drains here, and then like this shop needs to be like this race shop, because the guy's got it's a fucking compound.
Depends what the limit is on the Amex.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, if it's a black card, you're good.
I think you know what I'm saying. Like you go there, not only is the project you're doing huge, and it's the biggest one you've ever done, it's on something that nobody else has, that there's so much potential, and your ideas are rolling. You're like, shut it off, drive past that shop. Let's get to the house. Let's worry about the closet, because that's what we're doing today is the closet.
Yeah. That comes naturally, I just see it, like the process of how you would do things. Now I'm sure we made a lot of mistakes. I've never remodeled a house before, right? But all of the accessories and how the accessories fit together, and then aggregating, like one of my family friends, Laurel, was the interior designer who was she's a master at her craft, and then bringing in Chris from Service Plumbing, he's a master at his craft, and so eventually learning how to, remember we talked about early on, was the giving up and including others. It's really easy when you know somebody's way better at it than you are. And so then learning how to aggregate. It's funny because some of the audience has turned on me, especially Adam's audience, like, what does Matt do? I'm like, guys, I put this whole thing together. Without me, this doesn't exist. But it's gotten to the point now where I've had to learn how to let go of a lot of things and bring in people that are better at it than I do. And, like my cinematographer, Mike Waba, I can't do it as good as he could. Why would I push him out of the way and say, hey, man, get out of the way. Let me do this. Because he's better at it. And so that's helped me a lot immensely in hiring people and bringing people into my life that are better at it than I am, and then aggregating them. I have the vision. What I've learned is that the entrepreneurial side, the vision, I'm sure you guys have this with a car. You see a classic car and you have the vision for how to put all those tens of thousands of parts and pieces together to come up with a result, right? Yeah. And so same thing, I see that when I see a garage, or I see that when I see a set of plans, and then all the way down to the spatula, the fork, the knife, because that's the part that I really love. I hated doing all the other stuff, the cabinet install and the demolition. I hated all that crap, but I'm addicted to the result of being able to organize the spoons at the end, right? Same thing with detailing a car. I hate polishing a car. And yet I have thousands of hours of me showing you how to polish a car. But I love the final result of walking with wiping, the back of my hand and feeling that freshly coated, freshly corrected, painted surface, just feeling it, slick as can be and enjoying the result. So being addicted to the result is what makes you show up and do a project. Because, by the way, none of these guys pay me to do any of these projects you've seen me do. Adam certainly didn't pay me, but John bought the product, so I made some money. And Fred, who I did Fred's garage. You want to check out the garage we did in California? It's all green list of cabinets. Okay. That one's really cool. So those were the guys that just said, hey, I didn't want to charge them anything. Look, just if you'll let me video this, that'll pay for my time and labor and all my employees, but you just buy the stuff, and that's what I'll make a profit on it. But I don't intend to do that forever, but who knows, maybe there's a Chip and Joanna Gaines type thing where I can have a team show up and I just show up and point at the end of the day and everything gets done. Maybe that's the future, but I do think it's a cool potential show or potential, like all us guys would want to see that kind of thing without all the nonsense. Without the fake deadline and the, oh my gosh, we're not sure if we're going to make it, and then at the very end, it all comes together.
No, I think that would be fantastic. They did it. Richard Rawlings did the shop.
Yeah.
What do they call it? It was
something garage rehab.
Yeah, garage rehab.
Garage makeover. Yeah.
No disrespect to him, but it was your typical kind of TV show. It's staged, and there's a deadline, and there's this and there's that. But that would be such an amazing show. I'd be glued to it. I mean, full disclosure, I watch a lot of those shows. I don't watch any car shows on TV.
I do. But, I do.
But and it's because you love seeing like the perfection in it.
Well, you guys have done Joe Rogan's cars, right?
Yeah.
And so he's doing 4-hour long form sit down conversations when the rest of the world is saying it needs to be a 15-second clip. Yeah. And I subscribe to that same philosophy that we don't need to dumb it down for people. They can click around on their own. They can skip through what they want to, but let's give them the whole story, the whole picture. So that Adam LZ project is like 50 episodes. And sometimes gets redundant because when you're on a remodel, you have to revisit the same thing 10 times. Like sometimes you're talking about something ad nauseum to get it right. And I felt like it was important to show that because you don't see that when you watch the home makeover shows. They just instantly, it was this easy. We had one little decision to make and that was it. But that's not how the real world works.
You didn't see how they did the flush fit of the drywall or the switches or any of the stuff that like you want to see how they did that.
Right. That's my argument. Now, the only problem with doing that is you only get about 10,000 people that care about that stuff. You don't get.
It'd be 42 episodes on the garage.
I mean, all
but I stuck to that because I'd be better off just shutting up and doing donuts in my GT3. Right, I'd get way more engagement, way more viewers. But I wouldn't have
if you
that
roll it, you'll get a shit ton of views.
He rolled GT350.
Brennan Shaw.
Brennan Shaw, he rolled that TRX.
Yeah,
biggest video of his life.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. That's what people want to see.
I know. People hate Brennan Shaw, though. They just want to see him fail in particular.
Is that what it was?
Yes, he is not. Man, I don't know.
Yeah, he's big. He's big, good looking, successful, and people don't like that.
Hey, we had him on the podcast, and I really enjoyed it.
I did too, and I
enjoyed talking to him. We caught so much shit.
Really? Yeah, I know. I didn't know a lot about him, and then when I saw all the comments, I'm like, well, I like talking. The dude seemed pretty cool. What's everybody so pissed off?
We caught more flack over just the act of us having him on here than we've had in anything that we've ever done in our entire career
combined.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. People are, we always knew people are mean and they suck, but when it came to Brendan Shaw, people are fucking mean, man. Yeah. They are mean. But
yeah,
I'm sure you get to experience that too. I mean, being that you've got such a massive presence on YouTube, it's probably overwhelmingly positive, but I'm sure there's the ones that are like, dude, what the fuck did that guy just say?
I think I'm misunderstood a lot, because I'm speaking to you guys and I'm telling you, I use numbers sometimes, because numbers to me are like that context. Like if you guys are telling people how much some of your cars that you guys build cost, the average person just freaks out about that. Like they just can't comprehend that. And yet to me, like, I want to know. And so I just provide people the resource that I wanted to see, I wanted somebody else to say. And so that gets you, I mean, people, especially if they're casual or they just showed up. I grew up in a trailer park. My parents worked for me. No one lent me any money. Like but they think that like that you're just given. Like that. Oh man, I get the what they call it, overpriced garage. You guys probably get that a lot too, right?
As soon as you put a number on something, it's amazing how the mentality changes. Like we do a tremendous amount of YouTube content, and it's generally pretty well received. But we recently did a video with Sean at Autotopia. He covered our legend trucks, we call them. So it's the one that Matt has. It's a 76 Chevy square body. And he titled it, and he's smart, so he obviously titled it that for a reason. It's like the $250,000 76 K10 Roadster Shop truck. Just that, the fact that there was a number on it, I mean, it is 200-300 comments of just negative.
Not worth that. I'm counting about 50 grand in parts.
What I don't understand, like, I've watched plenty of videos on like $13 million yachts. Not that I'm in the market or will ever be. But I just enjoed watching it, right?
It's not like I'm going to be like
13 million. Fuck yeah, right.
12,
more like 8.
Like, can't you just watch it?
John boat's $1,500.
Yeah, can't you just watch it and enjoy it? And I'm sure it's like that because you can go to Pet Boys and buy wax for or you could buy a pressure washer, a Ryobi pressure washer, right? It's probably
even some of the stuff that I
$80.
sell, you can buy it in other places. And the funny thing is, I have a strong, what my business coach calls it, being right. I just got to be right. And so early on, I say we all start out as infants. I don't care if you're 50, 70, 80 years old. If you're on Facebook for the first time, or you're on YouTube for the first time, you're an infant, right? We're all infants trying to learn how to navigate the social media landscape. And so early on, I'd share the price of something like, hey, this hose reel is like $500 and this hose is $400. And then people are like, oh, so you're bragging now? And then I would have to go and prove them wrong, right? Because I'm an infant. And then eventually you become an elementary school student, and then you get your high school diploma. And then I'd say I have about a master's degree now where I'm learning how to engage and how to deal with it. Because if you're being authentic and if your face looks like mine, right? If you just look like a jerk, then it takes a while to learn how to navigate that. Like I'm here at the ride company and we're going to have like a meet and greet or something. I don't want to do that, but they wanted to do it. And so then there's like 30 comments about, I'd never want to meet that jerk. He's a loser. He sucks. I'm like the nicest guy ever. Like no one's ever said in the history of ever when we met in person that I was mean or not nice. It's like, the perception of online, and if you use numbers and you use factual information, it can become really problematic.
It can.
It's a good way of putting it, though, in the age groups, because I would definitely consider myself an adolescent when it comes to like YouTube or on our social media, because I spent probably 2 days going through and responding to every single one of those negative comments on Sean's Autotopia video about the Legends truck.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, every response was just like
through what?
A couple burner accounts I've got.
I didn't read the replies. I scrolled through like 15 of them, and I'm like, Dad, that's enough of this.
My go-to reply is just, your mom didn't say that. Your mom had a fine time in it.
You're definitely in the adolescent group. Okay?
That's exactly what I'm saying. 250 grand looks like it rides pretty rough. Not what your mom said last night. And it was just, I just tried to.
But then you go back there. Joe Rogan talks about this. Then you go back there and you're like, oh, let me see what he said. It's eventually you have to post and ghost, or just because of the way that my business is set up. I think it's important to I read every comment, I respond to everything. I think it's important. I've learned a lot, especially since I'm product focused and process focused. And so I learned a lot from the comments, especially the ones, because a lot of people are constructive, right? They had constructive information. Yeah. Hey, Matt, have you considered this? Hey, Matt, you might want to think about this. Not, you suck, you don't know what you're talking about, you're stupid. And learning. So I say I have a master's degree because now I can read through that and not have it make my blood boil, not have a need to respond to it. Or if I do respond to it, it's usually sometimes I'm feeling real good and I'll say, let me win them over instead. Hey, you have a really valid point there. Could you elaborate on that? You said that's overpriced. Man, if I'm messing up, I'd love it if you'd share with me where I am overpriced. Of course, they'd never find anything.
Yep.
But then other nights they're like, yeah, you suck. So it just depends. It depends on. So maybe someday I'll get my PhD where I'll never get sucked into that.
I'll tell you the interesting thing that I've found that I've looked at a lot of these over the years, and when you click on that individual's profile.
Just judging them silently is the best thing to do.
Yeah, but here's what I've noticed. This isn't like an overwhelming statistic, and I don't want to make this like a political thing, but if you click on those profiles, I almost think these are burner accounts and it's the government trying to create a narrative, because every single one that's the nastiest comment, you click on it, it's usually like just a handful of friends or followers, but it is like MAGA this and American flags everywhere and like overwhelming, like just nothing but Trump. It's look,
really,
when you see the nastiest comments, click on it, go to the profile, and I guarantee you it could be a conspiracy, but
Russian bots,
yeah, China.
I've had a rash of bots here recently, and I had to go delete all the darn comments because I find the comments to be really useful. It's a good, useful area. Now, most of the commenters are not my customers, right?
Right.
Commenters are not the customers, but the commenters add engagement. So I view it as there's like different tiers of people. There's your fans, there's your the people that engage with you, but most of the customers are just silent supporters.
Correct.
And so I view it as the customers are reading through the comments, and if I can respond and add some value to that, we can all learn something from it. And so and sometimes my customers like it when I give them the business. I say, you suck, or you're stupid.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point as well, because I've been through your website, I've been all over it. I'm getting ready to tune up my garage a little bit, and I'm looking at some stuff, and I will never in a million years comment on one of your YouTube videos. It's not.
I would never comment on yours. I've watched hundreds of your videos, and I would never comment.
Yeah, nothing against you. And I wouldn't even click the like button, not because I like or dislike it, but there's things I'm going to buy off your website. Like I've seen things, I'm like, I need that. I'm going to buy that. When I'm ready, I'm going to buy it. But again, it's like that's the customer base. They're not going to engage on any of those things.
I think we need all the above. You need the engagement people. You need the people that are going to show up at your open house. You need the people that are going to be, support you, maybe not monetarily, but they support you, whether they join, like I have a Facebook group with 50,000 people in it, and they all contribute to each other. Yep. And so there's different levels of support that help create. What we're really trying to do is create a brand, right? Create and have that brand recognized with excellence in some form or fashion. And we share a lot of synergy here because you guys are making excellent vehicles, and I'm hoping to make excellent garages. And then you get to borrow your vehicle in the excellent garage. And so we have a lot of the shared customers and shared like-minded people. Yep. But I think that all of these types are needed in order to create the brand. Even the haters, the haters oftentimes help reinforce people that like what you're doing, makes them feel better. Hey man, especially those that are pretty secure in their life, they can see through the insecurity of when somebody's yelling at you because your truck's $250,000, and we all know that it's justified. All you guys do, and all I do generally, is let me just add up what it costs and then add a reasonable margin to it, and that's the price. Yeah. And we live in a world where the Walmarts and the big box stores, they set the price and then figure out how much they can get in for that price, right? So they're making some junk product just to fit a price point. When you live in the world of build it what it needs to be, then figure out what it costs, that cost is usually much bigger than most people would anticipate because they're so used to built to a price point stuff. Yep. Like every car, that you buy on the market, OE is built to a price.
Yep.
And except for Huayras and Koenigsegg's and some of the Hennessy stuff and some of these cars that they're built money no object. Let's just build it what it needs to be and then figure out what it costs. But the vast majority of our lives are we're all conditioned to buy things that have been produced at massive scale to a certain price point, and they always have to cut corners. So you and I, we live in this world where we're not cutting corners.
Right.
And so that can be a turnoff to some people, I think.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I felt like an imposter in that. So I would fight more out of insecurity because I wasn't sure. I'm like, am I crazy here? So it's taken a long time, and the concept has proven itself. So it's taken a long time to learn how to accept, hey, I really am onto something here. I don't need to defend it.
Right.
I am correct in this. And yes, there are people who aren't going to believe that, and that's okay. And it's taken a long time to figure out how to be okay with that. I just want everybody to love the product that I love. And it makes me mad when you think that I'm ripping you off, which is nonsense. So
how do you stick to your guns early on as you're going through that, trying to develop the brand and build the business, and you're getting a little bit of feedback? And
oh no, I laid into them. But that probably also helped. That also helped build a core audience
because you're showing engagement. You're showing that you're a real person. You're talking to them. You're listening to them.
It also means that I don't have to deal with a lot of nonsense customer wise. I've never had anybody show up at my house or at my business. I'm dealing with rational, non-entitled adults. Like Adam LZ, he has to be very private about where he is. I mean, because he's got young men that their brains aren't fully developed. And so they'll just show up. And so he has to have a gate and security and stuff like that. Plus, he has a much bigger following than I have. So, but I watch him engage with people when he's just out in public, and his audience doesn't have the same. There's an entertainment factor there where they really admire him, but they because he's sort of more PC than I am, he doesn't turn anybody off. And so that turnoff I found in being candid and authentic has helped me from a business perspective. People don't return stuff. They don't complain. They don't badmouth. They're not entitled. So I always say I'm like bug repellent to entitlement because I say what's so. That thing sucks. That thing is good. You're crazy if you're buying that thing that sucks. I'm telling you, I bought that and everything in between. This is what you need to get. And so there's a certain subset of people, when I have that kind of animated discussion with them, because I said that sucks, I'm saying they suck because they bought that thing that sucks. And so then that's when you get the bad rap, and then that's when they start to disparage you a little bit.
That's what I'm interested in. It's a great segue. I want to know, because we've talked a lot about on this podcast this episode with you on the obsession, right? And the compulsiveness and the digging in and the doing the research, right? And we've also talked about the dopamine addiction, right? We talked about the addiction to that, getting to that thing.
The result.
Let me touch that paint. Let me organize the things. Let me step back and look at it and know that it's either perfection or it's as damn close as I can come to perfection, right? So you get to that. I want to know two things. One, tool or detail garage item, and other one is car. What is something that you've obsessed over? You've done your due diligence. You've done your research. You've talked. You've read the 300-page catalog for 200 hours. You've done everything, and you obtain that item. And it was what's the biggest letdown? The biggest letdown car-wise, and the biggest letdown tool, detail, whatever.
That's a great question.
That is a great question, Josh.
And
I appreciate
the answer changes as I mature and as I covet. Let's see, car. The latest experience of I had gotten an allocation for a 992, so a 2023 911 GT3 touring, and I was allowed to do paint to sample, and so that was like my life's dream. At MSRP, no like $200,000 markup or anything. So I've developed over the years a great relationship with the Porsche dealership in Wilmington, North Carolina, and so I was so excited. I ordered the car, and I ordered it in Brewster green, which is a non-metallic, like a shade darker than say British racing green.
Yeah,
and
cool.
so I thought, man, this is going to be great. And I did the exclusive interior option where it was a Cohiba brown, so a light brown, a gentleman spec, right? Like really understated, really sort of what I'd always dreamed of having. And it goes back to I had an old manager who showed up in a 996 that was some form of green with a tan interior. And so I always wanted to have that someday. He had harnesses in it. I was like, man, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so I got the car, and the paint was atrocious.
Ugh.
Like, just awful.
The quality or the color?
The quality, the color's great. The color was fine. And I could not get it corrected. I just couldn't get it right. Trying all these different processes that ended up being like a 4 or 5 step correction to get it. Because when I'd go with a compounding pass, it would mar it, and then if I went to finishing, the finishing wouldn't get all the marring out, so I had to add like a couple of other steps where I slowly reduced pressure. So it was testing my skill set to the end. I would say I'm like an average pro level polisher, right? So I'd be like an average long-term pro, but I'm not like world class. I'm just not artistic enough. Those guys that are really great at correcting and perfecting paint are true artists. And so it was testing my patience. And then there's like a gouge in the car already. So it already had a lot of problems, a run here or there. It just was such a letdown. I paid $200,000 on this car, and it's worth $300,000. And it just was a really, it was an experience that I just didn't enjoy. It was such a letdown. So I actually just traded that car. But the magic of that car is it helped me figure out the 992 is better than the 991.2. The 991.2 is better than the 991.1. The 991.1 is better than the 997. But I like the 991.1 the most. It has the right amount of flaws. It has the right look, the right feel. And I've had all of them. And so my car is the .1 RS, the GT3 RS. That's my favorite car. And so I just traded that Brewster, which I thought I was going to have for the rest of my life. I'm going to have this forever. This is my first paint to sample. I'm going to keep this car. I'm going to collect it. It's going to be great. I'm going to drive it. I'm going to enjoy it. But because the paint was so jacked up from the factory, and I did get it like to like 95%, but it just felt like
that's shocking.
The only word I can think of is molest it in order to get it to that point. And I just felt like it was a letdown. It felt like an anchor. Like I was like every time I got it was a cinder block tied around my ankle. And so that car I just moved on from here recently. And that was because that was like a life moment to be able to buy that car. It's $200,000, and I got to buy it, and I got the allocation for it, and all the work I did to get the allocation, and then to not keep it for more than a couple of years. And then to have people accuse me of being a flipper. You're just doing it to flip it. And it's just, yeah, it was a real letdown. On the detailing front, well, first of all, there's one thing. How much polishing are you guys doing in the shop? Do you do all the refinishing?
Yeah, we do. We have a full body shop, so we're spraying, cutting, buffing the whole 9 yards. The thing we don't really do is like the final, like what you would do is like the paint correction, like the fine detail stuff we bring somebody in for.
But one thing you got to do, just get for yourselves personally. There's a 3-inch polisher from Merca. Now it's $900. It's only a 3-inch polisher, but it is the greatest detailing piece of equipment ever created. I'm trying to convince them to make me a 5-inch as well, but it's the most. If you've ever used a polisher or used a rotary, with a wool pad on it. But if you've used like a modern like Rupes dual action, like a long throw polisher, if you use one of those and you pick up this Merca. Merca is a sanding company. They make a lot of sanding tools for refinishing.
It's like a right angle, right? With a little 3-inch head on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the Rupes ones, and guys complain about like it's like harsh on the
the new Rupes one's junk. Yeah. Good. It's got the little swan neck looking thing. Well, I'm telling you, if you get one of the Mercas, that's like the most transcendent detailing product ever. I can't really think of anything that I've been like super disappointed. And I think what happens is, and you guys probably have this in what you guys do in certain parts or pieces of things that you've had a lot of experience with. I can usually look at something without even touching it and have a pretty good idea if it's good or not.
Yeah.
Even certain chemicals, because I'm looking at the packaging, I'm looking at the label, I'm looking at the guy that's in charge of it, and you develop a skill set, especially if you're a really good shopper like I've become. You start to develop a skill set to know if something's really, really good. Sometimes you're shocked, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So very rarely do I get something, and it was just because I would never give it the time of day, that it was just shockingly bad. And so pressure washing, it's happened a little bit here and there, and because the pressure washer to me is one of the ultimate tools in washing a car, and part of my claim to fame is I've sort of helped to pioneer a lot of the, like, for example, instead of using high pressure gas pressure washer, we've taken these pressure washers designed for meat packing plants and chicken hatcheries and repurposing it because it's electric. They turn off when you release the trigger. They turn back on when you pull the trigger. And then the short gun, like the short guns from Osmatic and MTM, I have a lot to do with why those exist. They've always been in pressure washing, but not so much for car use. And then calibrating and retuning the pressure washer to have more flow rather than pressure is important for washing a car.
So that was something I wanted to talk to you about, because that's something I've been looking to purchase. I got hooked on, sponsored ads on Instagram. They, the
draft tools, I'm sure.
Yes. Yep. And I'm looking at it. And then so, well, okay, great. Right. Because I read the reviews and everything, and everybody says it basically sucks. Right. But I just love the concept of having that right there on the wall, easy to use. It's electric. Because at home, I got a DeWalt one. It's a fantastic tool, but it's an ordeal. Take it out, you fill it with gas. It's usually a little too aggressive, but I flipped through your website, and it's not a cheap date for some of those, but they look.
So my first question of the world is, who is Mr. Draft? Who is? I know who you guys are, right?
He's just some Chinese dude, man, in a big old factory.
Not even. It's some Chinese conglomerate that just knows how Americans think, and they're just manipulating us, right? Yep. So it's nonsense. The product doesn't matter. To me, like, I like Apple products. I know who Steve Jobs was. I don't know him, but you know who he was. You look at the guy in the eye on camera. Even Tim Cook, who runs the company, you kind of know who those people are. You know who Mr. Apple is, right? And so I really struggle with products that are very clearly set up with profit in mind and not profit as a result.
Sure.
Right. You guys make a great product because profit is not the thing. It's for the passion. It's for the love. Yeah. And so I think the best pressure washer in the world comes out of Germany. I've met the guy, Ludwig Krenzler. Met the dude. It's been in his family for like 100 years. And he loves pressure washing. They love their product. They love the brand. They love what they built. And what happens to a lot of companies we've seen over the years is that when the founder family sells out, sells the company, not sells it, but sells the company kind of gets sold out. And so, with a lot of products, I find the best products have the worst marketing, right? Because they just believe that their product, especially Germans, they believe their product is great and everybody should know it no matter what. Yeah. And so the Krenzler pressure washer it's now today, it used to be the highest flowing. So it used to have the most flow. Now there's pressure washers that have more output. But there's also, as you can tell, I'm a big Porsche guy. There's cars with a lot more horsepower, go faster, go around the track quicker than a 911. But something about the 911 just is hard to beat for me. And so same thing in pressure washing, the full package of a Krenzler pressure washer. And what you really want in an ultimate scenario, you want the pressure washer on a shelf on the wall with plumbing plumbed to it, and you want the hose reel below it so you can pull the hose reel out.
Yep.
And you want the water treatment system below it so you can do wash in the sun if you want to, like if it's the middle of the day with deionized water. And then you can just wind the hose back up. You don't have to like go get it out of the cabinet and drag it out in the driveway and all of that. And so you want an on-wall pressure washer. It costs about $3,800 to do that, $3,600 to do that, and to do it to 911 level. And then we have some tiers in between. So, you can buy like a lesser pressure washer and maybe
Matt just needs to come help you tune the garage up.
I think so. I'll tell you what, if that hose reels in nice and neat, it's worth its weight in gold, because trying to coil up the hose on a DeWalt pressure washer.
It won't coil up.
There's no way in the world.
Two-wire, you have a 2-wire hose. There's wire mesh in there. And you're fighting it, trying to get it to, you wish it was like an extension cord.
Yeah.
So having the hose reel, or what's even better, the ultimate is to have a boom pole, like a car wash or a boom pole. We have in this garage here that's behind the studio, we have a boom pole and a drain. That's the ultimate goal. Yeah. That's the drain. And then that way you just grab the thing and pull the trigger and it just works. That's the goal in life. But yeah, pressure washing is something that I spend a lot of time on, because it's a very important part of the washing process. And then, developing the different products, and I'm obsessed with the spray bottle and how that works. And then I probably bought every spray bottle that exists in the world. And I'm working with a company in Germany to develop one. But I'm a sucker for the guy. Who's the guy?
Of course.
I want to look the guy in the eye. And I want to know that he really likes what he's doing. He's really passionate. And the more passionate he is, the more I can get on board with that. That's a really good telltale sign of company makes a good product or not. Not always, but most of the time. Sometimes we just have an idiot who's really passionate about it, but that's pretty rare. That's pretty rare. I really dislike the companies that are just taking advantage. The Chinese knockoff companies. I'm all for manufacturing in China. There can be great products that come out of China. I mean, they do a lot of things, create a lot of things that we don't have the infrastructure to build, or the EPA doesn't allow us to do. But the Chinese copiers, the knockoffs, I rail against that. And I try to teach young men that, especially let's say you're a detailer, and if you're buying knockoff products that are stolen IP from the products from the companies that are really supporting your industry, I try to teach them that that's not a good way to be. I think you really want to support the brands that are supporting your industry. It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. I just think that's a real mistake in life, and that's a character thing that I think that your customers can smell on you. If you're using knockoff stuff just because it saved you $50.
Yep.
And the knockoffs are never good. They never beat original,
Next up, best piece of advice you've ever received.
Business is an excuse to be in relationship.
Yeah. It's a new one.
It's from my business coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
to me, business was always the product, the numbers, the data, the thing. All this stuff I'm talking about, all the pressure washer, is really just a conduit to a relationship with you, right? And it's taken me a long time to realize that, because I used to really beat myself up. I'm living this materialistic life. I'm in love with these. I'm coveting all these material items that I can't take with me, And what I realized is that me sharing these, what would be perceived as material things, has really been the conduit to relationship. And so my business and our businesses are just an excuse to be in relationship. My coach says, he says that if you take a building and all the computers and all the desks, and you take all the people out, what do you have? You got nothing. Just got a bunch of computers and a bunch of desks. Yeah. That may be changing with artificial intelligence, but at this point, without the humans, you don't have anything. Without the relationships, the interpersonal relationships, it doesn't work. That's why I really don't like the whole concept of remote working.
Yeah.
That collaboration of seeing all these, as you might imagine, most of the people who work for me are young men, and so watching those young men all collaborate together and seeing them come up with some sort of result, and watching their relationships developing from that, and me knowing that I'm the conduit to that. That's been the biggest change in my life, because I didn't give a crap about other people. I didn't give a crap about relationships until I broke. And I think, maybe there's some divine intervention in there, came kick me in the brain and said, hey, dude, you need some other people. Figure out how to let them in.
It's not, honestly, though, can't be that bad having a little bit of a relationship with a GT3 RS. It's got to be a decent relationship, right? It's got to be fun.
Yeah.
Few material things are all right.
It makes it a little nice.
Sprinkle them in there.
But that GT3 is what connects you to some other person. You know, maybe they have one. Some of my best friends in life are part of our GT Smokies group. We go to the Smoky Mountains together, and you get a bunch of people that have a shared passion. And it's weird. You get a bunch of introverts around the table, and you can't shut them up because they know that they've got somebody else that's an equal.
Yep.
You know, or if I get some obsessed garage people together that are all nerds that would be hiding in the corner somewhere, we would all be in the nerds in respective corners, and you get us together at a table, and it's like we got to like bring the volume down because you can't hear each other talk because you're so excited that you've got somebody.
I think introvert though is the wrong way to look at that, because you're 100% right, and it's not that you're an introvert. You're just picky. You're picky. You're picky about people. You're people picky. He's not an introvert,
right?
You just got high standards. We all deal with the same thing.
One of my taglines early on was "Do average elsewhere," and so when you're around average people and you're talking about the weather and you're talking about politics, you're talking about the same things that everybody else talks about. It's boring to to people that now above average is not better. You know, that's what I've learned. It's just different.
Right.
And that difference in life, when you get difference like-kinded or like differences together, then magic can happen. And so I built a darn business with a bunch of different people, all with a shared mission. And then I'm learning how to be a leader, or learning how to develop relationships, learning how to do that, and magic can happen. Almost all my employees were followers.
That's awesome. That makes it.
You just put it out there. Hey, I'm looking for this type of person to do this type of job, and I get 200 applications, and I get to pick from people that. And the beauty is they show up. I don't even need to train them because they already know everything. They already know all the products because they all wanted to buy it. It's awesome.
Oh, good for you, man. I'm glad that's all working out that way. It's a great story coming through. I answers a lot of questions, and I really enjoyed having the conversation. Favorite car movie and why?
I mean, I have a soft spot for Fast and Furious 1. I hate all the other ones. Mm-hmm. Like anybody watch, they're just terrible.
We're similar age. You said born in 80. I was born in 78. So I can see the Fast and Furious 1. I've got soft spot for that one as well.
I had a 99 Civic Si, and when Fast and Furious came out in 99. Yep, Electron blue. Yeah. And so going to the movies was like the most amazing event when Fast and Furious 1 came. It was awesome.
I remember it.
Finally a movie about us and our stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was off. You know, there was a lot of liberties taken, with some bull crap.
It was basically a documentary.
It was closer than like whatever the
Fast
one.
9.
Yeah, Fast 9, where they're flying through space.
But I think my favorite car movie is probably Ronin.
Oh, that's coming from the home theater side.
Yeah, you remember the car chase scene with the
best.
F8?
It's come up here a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Ronin is probably my favorite. Even though that movie's kind of boring, that scene made me love Audis until I got one and realized how much I hate driving. And Audi's like a pig, an understeer pig. Sorry to all you Audi listeners, but I keep trying Audis. I keep trying to go back, and it's just terrible. It's a terrible driving experience.
Selling home theater and car stereo back in the day at Hi-Fi Buys. We used to play that Ronin video. And in an Alpine flip out for a surround sound in a car, for audio in a car, or, when the new Pioneer first Plasma came out at, 27 inches or whatever for 20 grand, we were having Ronin playing back in the day.
How many years did you do that?
Car stereo wise is probably about 6 years. And then, home theater too.
You've got to be like 200 years old.
So
I
did that.
You've done.
I've done a lot of things.
There are like 8 part-time jobs all at the same time.
I did a lot of jobs at the same time.
So the East Coast competitor to Hi-Fi Buys was Tweeter.
Oh yeah. Well, then they merged. Then Tweeter bought Hi-Fi Buys.
Yep. And then they went out of business.
Yep,
right.
They did.
And so I worked I went to Villanova in Philadelphia, and I have an electrical engineering degree. And my sophomore year, I flunked fundamentals of electrical engineering 1. And I'm a poor kid going to a really affluent school. And it was like $30-something thousand a year. I'm borrowing the money, and so I wasn't going to be able to go to like a 4th or 5th year. I had to get this done, and so I had to get a job. and stay at school. It was about an hour and a half from where I lived, 2 hours from where my parents lived. And so between sophomore and junior year, I had to go to summer school to stay on track. And so I went and I applied to Tower Records. Doesn't exist anymore, of course. I went and applied to Bally Total Fitness. Doesn't exist anymore. And I went and dropped my resume off at Bryn Mawr Stereo, which was eventually bought by Tweeter. Yep. And so I dropped my resume off, and one of my best friends in life today took my resume, rolled his eyes. He's like, "Get out of here, you loser." And I took a job at Bally Total Fitness cleaning the machines as a floor cleaner, and then the manager of the store called me and said, "Hey, before you take that job," I'm like, "It's too late, man. I already took the job." He's like, "No, just come and hear me out." And they sat me down and they said, "What do you know?" They handed me the catalog. The car stereo manager and the store manager said, "What do you know about Alpine head units?" I knew the model numbers. I knew the power output. I knew the single DIN versus double DIN. And they said, "Okay, here's what we're looking for. We're looking for a part-time stock guy and a part-time car stereo salesman." I was like, oh man, this is a dream. So I called Bally. I show up my first day. They say, "Look, there's nothing to do in the stock room, so just go hang out on the sales floor." And so some guy comes in and I'm in the sales floor and I'm just like, well, I don't really know. I don't know Pioneer. I like the Clips and Alpine. And so I was just memorizing all the specs of all the Pioneer stuff from standing there in the room. And I just start talking to this guy about, he says, "Yeah, what do you think about this or that?" And I just got a new Jeep Grand Cherokee. And I said, "Oh, you definitely want Boston 6.5 Pros. And then, we need to do this Alpine CDA, whatever head unit. And remember Extant amps?"
Oh, yeah.
They didn't work, but when they did, they were great.
Yeah.
Extant amp. And he says, "Okay, I'll take that." And it was like $4,800 or something like that.
Big commission.
And so I go up. I didn't know this. I didn't even know what commission was from the frickin' trailer park. And so I would work for like a general contractor organizing their dumpsters so they could fit more stuff in it in between winter and fall break and stuff like that. And so I go up to the car stereo manager. He's all ticked off. He's having I don't even have a rep number yet. And the store manager comes up and he says, what's going on here?" I was like, "I don't know. I was in the room and the guy said he got a new car and he asked me what I'd buy and I told him what I'd buy and he bought it." And he says, "All right, we're going to get somebody else to work in the stock room. You're going to sell." And so by the end of that year, I was like #1 in the tri-state area. It was like a freaking awakening. Nice. Like, wait a minute, I make 16% of the profit?
Oh, yeah.
No cap? I think I made like $70,000 that year in 1999.
That's the best part about Tweeter and Hi-Fi Buys, that commission structure.
Yeah.
And I spent every freaking penny of it.
Oh, yeah.
My college dorm, I had a 65-inch Mitsubishi Diamond rear projection TV.
Oh, the employee discounts were nuts, too. The employee discounts were crazy.
Oh yeah, because they wanted you to own the product. Because if you own the product, then you would be more inclined to sell it.
Yeah.
So this has come full circle for me. I actually have just started a business called Obsessed Home Theater, and so I bought that URL when I first started Obsessed Garage because I knew I'd come back to it someday. So I'm going to take the same curation model with cars and detailing and garages and do it in the home theater space. The only difference is I can't be the star of that. And so I have another YouTuber friend who's a lot like me without the business side. And so he's going to be the star. And so we're partnering on creating this same sort of curated home theater thing. So mainly I'm just doing it so I can get speakers on accommodation again, and I can buy them on the cheap.
What'd they call when they do the specials? Brian, my buddy Brian Cargill's listening. He worked at the same time. He's listening right now, and
it was called accommodation, and it was an accommodation purchase. The accommodation demo purchase is what you could get, and you could buy it like 60% off, no tax, no shipping, and then you could sell it after a year. So that was a little side business I had. I would buy like Martin Logan's and buy like a $20,000 system.
We all know about that part of it. That's everybody that worked there knew about that part. What was when they come in, like JL Audio would come in, it wasn't TIF money, but it was on top of your spiff. That's what it was. They'd come in and you'd be like, "Hey, JL, this month you get 3 more points on it, and then over a certain amount you get another $250 or something like that." It's like we're fixing to crank through some JL Audio.
Remember, like camcorders? Camcorders had no margin, but they'd always have a spiff. Like you sell like a Sony camcorder.
Yeah.
I transitioned from car stereo after a year to home theater because home theater you was bigger tickets, right? Bigger average orders. Car stereo had more profit.
I stayed in car stereo because I had built-in.
That was the language you were speaking.
I was selling rims and tires at the performance shop, and we didn't sell stereo stuff, right? So then it'd be like, oh, come over.
See my buddy Josh over there.
Yeah, come over and see me. I'll be there on that time. So then, I would just build up my core, and they would only come see me when I was working there. So it was just it just worked out.
So you were there what years?
This was 99 or 2000.
So we were there at the same time. I was 99 to 2004.
Okay.
And then I transferred to Florida. When I graduated Villanova in 2002, I moved to Florida and I worked for Sound Advice, which remember how big the numbers were at Sound Advice? Like, we were in like the number 2 store in the whole Tweeter network. And so I'd become number 1 at Sound Advice. And a guy came in my store. So I had an electrical engineering degree. So I was the smartest guy with a bunch of refrigerator salesmen, right? Because most of these guys are freaking morons, right? That were selling TVs.
Yeah.
Right. So it was easy to win because
they all had a certain look too. And they wore the same clothes.
All a bunch of losers, right? And so they just sit there and they judge everybody that walked in, and I would just help anybody.
Yeah.
And a kid would walk in and you'd find out the kid's like the mayor's son or something, or Shaq's son, and you'd sell him a $50,000 system. And so I was staging for a job because I started doing a lot more custom install stuff. And I had just been accused of stealing, which was nonsense. It was some order that they backed out some of the price because the guy got mad or something, and I gave him a discount, and so I changed the ticket, and everybody had to go ask the manager, but I didn't have to ask because they trusted me. And then somebody found the ticket and they accused me of stealing, or were like going to send me to jail. And so I had to pay the money. And so I was really disgruntled that they had attacked my character. I had a key to the store, and I always did balance the closed out the register because I was the smart guy but I was young. I was a young guy. And so I was disgruntled, but I wasn't planning on changing. So I'm making like $110,000 a year selling this home theater stuff. And I loved that stuff so much. And so a guy comes in, he's looking at a Pioneer Plasma. And I just start talking to him about it. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to use it? I qualified him. I didn't ask, how can I help you? And so what I didn't know is this guy was a Merrill Lynch executive, right? And so I'm disgruntled. I'm like thinking about, what am I going to do with my life? Because I'm a big fish in a small pond. I'm kind of tapped out here. And so at the end of that, he said, I'd love you to come work for me. At the end of that, I sold him a TV. And so remember, we had same as cash financing, right? And so remember, you had to go to the machine, and in the bottom right-hand corner, you had to write what your income was. Yeah. And then we punched it into a 9-digit machine with all their information.
You saw what that income was, and you're like, oh.
I had to ask him. I said, is that per month or is that per year?
Yeah.
And he said, no, it was I think it was like 50,000 or something. And he's like, no, that's per month. And I said, all right, give me your card. And I went to 12 different interviews, and because Merrill Lynch usually hires like 30-year-olds, not 20-year-olds. And so I went to 12 different interviews over the course of a year, and then Merrill Lynch hired me. And so I left the happy, I left the passion then to chase the money. And I wish I had known. Now, I can't discount the value of what I've learned and money management and business and things like that, and having great clients. But man, if I had started a home theater business when I was 22 or 23, when I left the happy to chase the money, I can't imagine where I would have been today. But I guess can't look back at the past. But no. I love that stint in home theater. It's funny, we were at the same company.
Yeah, I haven't. That brings back memories because I haven't even thought about that stuff in a long time. The typing in, that was crazy back in the day. He was right. You'd type in we would do it all the time because people come in like.
You had to ask them their.
Yeah, you'd ask them their income, and you're typing into the thing because it's basically
credit check.
Yeah, it's just a quick credit check. Credit card. But and you'd have all walks of life, and I did a lot. We had a pretty decent area, decent store, and you had a lot of like first cars, right? And sons or daughters, the stereos weren't as near as good in the 90s, right? In the late 90s, early 2000s. So it was always, I just got my first car. I want subs, an amp, and a head unit, right? Yeah. It was an upsell to get fronts and back speakers, right? Or go to components. Then you've got a guy that's an audiophile, right? But it's generally amp, subs, and head, right? And it was a lot of times you do that. And then the guy was like, oh, you got same as cash. You do that. And you got, husbands, wives handling stuff. Then you got the guys like, I want 8 15s. I want 10. I'm going to do the whole system. You get the good shit. We're going to do all this stuff. Oh, I see you got this financing.
I want to finance it.
And we're talking about, I got to know your income. He's like, is that like, you mean, never mind, I'll just pay cash. I'm like, all right, no problem. Or there's times you're writing it up and you're like, man, this is like a $4,500 system. You're telling me you make, $35,000. I'm like, that ain't going to cut it. You make $65,000. Approved. Thank you.
You want to get the sale.
You got to do what you got to do. It ain't my.
We weren't getting. There was no base salary. There was a base commission, but a draw they call it. But you'd have to pay it back, in your next check. So the draw. So basically, you made $0. There's no minimum.
If you
wage.
don't sell shit, you don't make shit.
I loved that.
Yeah.
And so that was an awakening for me to come from the trailer park to like, wait a minute, there's no cap. I could just work harder.
Yeah.
And then they sent me to sales training, which was the old Xerox style feature advantage benefit sales training. So they teach how to sell from top down. And so that just was invaluable to learn how to sell as a young man, especially as an engineer, an introvert, like awkward type. It taught me how to sell, taught me how to.
They had a great training program.
Oh, it was fantastic.
We went over to Atlanta, spent a week over in Atlanta and doing all stuff. It was, those memories are flooding back. I can't even believe I even lived that life.
We're gonna lose you to that.
Wow, that we were at the same company, same time.
It's wild. All right, last up. I don't even know what that question, how we got there. Fucking crazy. Brian's listening right now. He's like, I remember those days. First car. That's where we're at. First car. So very similar age. You said your parents from Pennsylvania. Where did you grow up?
So I was born in Pittsburgh, lived there till I was 13, and then I went to high school in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, which is in the Poconos, near, the show The Office.
Oh, yeah.
Scranton. Well, it's Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Hazleton. They're like the 3 cities next to each other. So in northeastern Pennsylvania, it sucks. Total junk.
North.
I mean, he already tipped his hat to it.
Tipped his hat to his first car.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't my first. That was my first car.
Okay.
No.
So picture northeastern Pennsylvania, right? There ain't no foreign cars there, buddy.
Did you purchase it? Did you purchase it, or was it hand me down?
I bought it.
Okay.
Cash.
Cash money.
Yep. Not a lot of cash.
So you turned 16 in 99.
96.
96.
Yep.
What year did I turn 16? 96.
So $2,500 I bought it for. So maybe that'll give you a little context. So picture American. You got to be American.
Tempo. No, he was. I think he all them Hot Wheel, all them Matchbox cars. It was
started with a P.
That's Pontiac.
Mm-hmm.
Firebird.
Pontiac Sunfire GT.
Oh, Sunfire. That one went to a
square.
hair. Did you buy it from a hairdresser or sell it to a hairdresser?
Oh my God.
But this was before the rounded. This is the square body.
Yeah, that's the only way I remember.
Before it became a hairdresser car, it had a 1.8, twin turbo.
Yep.
But I can only go one place. It would buck like a Bronco and overheat and shut off. So if I went to school, I had to stay there for at least 3 hours for it to cool off.
It was transportation.
We didn't know that, so they sold me a lemon. And then the second, but that car actually kind of moved a little bit. It looked cool. It was a square body, it was blue.
Yeah,
I was guessing blue with a gray stripe on the
bottom.
Yeah.
Yep. And so then I traded that, maybe 6 months later, and I wanted a Ford Probe GT. Man,
dude, I was so gonna fucking guess it.
Dude, we're the same person.
Twin brother. Yeah.
We're the same person.
10 Gs. It was 10 Gs. My dad said it was too fast. But talk about a system car, right? Because it's a hatch.
I had one. I had a Ford Probe GT. We talk about it on this all the time.
I swear to God, I was going to call it out, and I was going to say that you guys have so many similarities, and I was going to call out fucking Ford Probe GT. You should have went with it. And then you threw me off when you started going down the Matchbox car thing. Because then I'm like, oh, maybe it's like
so I couldn't get the GT. My dad wouldn't let me, so I got a Chevy Beretta.
No.
Dude, you had the fleet, man. Damn.
So it was Pontiac Sunfire GT, red, but not the cool Beretta, not the Z whatever 24. It was the V6 right? It was not the souped up 4-cylinder. It was the V6. It was terrible, automatic. And so I had that it was red, and I had a yellow Wu-Tang sticker on the side.
Of course you did.
And so, but I cut the back seat out, and I had two 215s in the back there, and I didn't understand how Dynamat worked.
I was going to ask with that trunk
I would go to
rattle.
Walmart, I'd buy Dynamat, and I'd cut it in little squares because I wanted to maximize it.
Yeah.
Right. And so then I traded that in '99 for my my Electron Blue Pearl Civic.
Dude, for the rest of my life, I will always be able to identify the exact sound of a Beretta starting. There's something so unique about a Beretta sound.
Yeah.
I don't know what the motor was, but I'll never forget it.
Well, I'm on the hunt for my Probe GT back. I had a 96 Probe GT, the maroon 5-speed. And you're right, that was a system car. However, when I got mine, those seats, the back seats folded forward, right? So it opened that up. At 16 and a half, I realized that I
slide a mattress.
I needed the trunk space instead of the sub. So that was a great car. See the stars.
So I went back. I didn't go back to Sunfire, Beretta, or Ford Probe, but I did go back about 2.5 years ago, and I bought a Civic Si again. No budget. I spent 150 G's on that Civic, and I did a raffle. So I did the Type R engine swap. I did all the crazy Moton suspension, and I did $26,000 stereo because remember we did speakers in the kick.
Yep.
That was the way to get, because we didn't have time alignment DSP and stuff like we do now.
Oh yeah, put the kick.
Put the speakers in the kick. And so I had that done, and then people were yelling at me, "Why are you putting in the kick panel? It needs to be up in the A-pillar." I said, I understand that, but back in '99, 2000, that was what you did.
You'd take your ABS, you'd make your little MDF form, you'd put your fleece over it, you'd make your milkshake, then you'd do your vinyl dye, and it would be like a stealth install, like nobody ever did.
Yep. That's what we did. You put your Boston 6.5 Pros in there, right?
Oh yeah.
And that was the jam, And so I did that, and then I think I made like $450,000 on that raffle or something like that. So on that car. So it was cool. It was cool.
Man, Matt, it's been awesome.
Yeah, this has been
great
fun,
time. Yeah. Can't believe the similarities.
We're like brothers.
Yeah.
Opposite coast.
We're gonna have to do this again. If you're ever in the Chicago area, man, stop by. I'd love to show you the shop. Love to have you here in person. And we got to get you out to Jeremy's. Just going to be doing this garage here soon.
For sure.
I might be convinced, but yeah, we definitely have to do something together. If I'm ever there, or you're ever down in Florida, I live just outside Orlando.
Okay.
And it's called the Villages. It's the biggest retirement community in
America.
I know the Villages well. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. I'm kind of stuck there. That's where my Merrill Lynch office was. And,
you've been a smart man from a long. You had a Merrill Lynch office at the Villages.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
Is there any truth to that loofah thing?
What's that?
No. The loofah thing is because people get lost, and there's a lot of the same cars, and so they started putting loofahs on the antenna so they could find their car. But they don't realize that people think that means you're a swinger, right? And there's different.
But they do a lot of that down there.
Yeah, that's what they say. I haven't experienced it. The other STD rumor thing about the Villages.
Yeah.
There was a doctor on like I don't know, Wesh TV or something years and years ago that said he had noticed a higher incidence of VD per capita, and that turned into everybody has an STD in the Villages because they're all swingers, which is maybe there's some of it, but I haven't experienced it. But it's 150,000 retirees and one's bought.
Yeah.
And me and my GT3 RS. That's weird.
Slaying it.
Appreciate it, man.
Dude.
Until next time.
Take care.
We got to do whiskey review.
Yeah. We've been slacking on those quite a bit.
Yeah, we got 2 to do tonight. We got 2 whiskey reviews.
It's just a splash.
I poured you a little heavy last time. I apologize.
A little hard. Homesick Blues.
I don't have anything to record this whiskey review on. Document it, I mean.
How'd you make it through a whole podcast without fucking doodling and writing?
I've tried to break that habit.
I think once you get talking about that
trying to be more present.
That stereo job, there was no time to even think about doodling. I've never seen you so giddy.
It's just funny. Like nobody. It's a not a well-known establishment for somebody else to work at the same exact place.
Similarities were scary there.
It was.
Really?
He's a lot smarter than you, though. Dude, that dude's sharp. Like, very sharp.
How do you turn just talking about a guest into a dig at me?
Well, we're just talking here.
I know, but we didn't even start like a, hey, who's smarter? Oh, he's smarter.
Well,
no, you just said, hey, I'm
there's
just...
similarities and then there's differences. So there's a lot of
compare and contrast episode.
I appreciate that.
Oh, anyway.
Hey.
I mean, you know a lot of shit. It's just useless. It's just useless stuff.
I promise.
You've been bottling this up all episode.
I would let you keep going, but it ain't going to get better. It's just going to keep...
All I can think about is that conversation we had, was it yesterday morning in Phil's office when you do the... So I'm going to take a dig anytime.
I got you.
All right, Heaven's Door.
Heaven's
Homesick
Door.
Blues. I like the name.
So this was a gift. North Speed and Restoration, Ron Henshaw and Nikki Henshaw. This one's been here for a little bit. They gave this gift quite some time ago. Unfortunately, it got shuffled in the mix in the studio, so we're bringing it back out. I had high hopes for the weeded side. I think that I said this a couple of times, the flavor's good.
Yeah.
It's got a deep, thick flavor, but it's got a
funk.
It's got a twang.
Yeah, it's got a little funk about it. It's got a flavor that hits you on the tongue, and it's all sorts of crazy stuff going on there, like almost like maple syrupy.
But then it's
not, but then it's like not that good. After that,
I'm glad we're all.
Yeah, I hate when people give gifts.
Someone's gonna get like a little bit of like that cigar taste afterwards.
Yeah.
The next morning after you smoked a cigar.
It's
it's a good
122.7 proof, and it's not a burner.
The proof isn't a bad thing.
So it goes down smooth. I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's not my favorite. It doesn't taste like a weeded.
No, I was expecting a lot sweeter, smoother for the weeded deal,
but it presents well, and it's got a phenomenal name. Homesick Blues sounds like a Johnny Cash song.
This is one I would go back to. I would try that same bottle again in a few weeks to see how things change. Because there's probably been a dozen bottles that I really like now that the first time I was like, ugh, that ain't for me. And then I go back and I'm like, shit.
I'll bet you throw that on the rocks and dilute it a little bit. It's probably pretty good.
I'm going to give this one, because of its uniqueness and because I'm going to try it again, I'm going to give it a 7.3.
I was going 6.9.
69.
I was waiting for it.
I was going to let you do it.
No. It's your adolescent.
It felt right.
Yeah. I'm going to go 7.0.
7.0.
Asterisks need to try again.
Yeah. We'll try again.
We got to catch up though. Last episode, we missed a bourbon I really liked, and it was another gift. And I feel like we didn't have enough time in that episode because we had guests in studio to really bust.
So we didn't give him anywhere near enough shit.
Right.
I know.
Like if he was talking about it, it'd be 4 hours later and he'd still be talking about it.
I don't think, but to do him justice, we shouldn't, one, use his name or talk too much about him. Because that's giving him way too much credit on this podcast that he doesn't deserve. He got to buy a chassis to get that shit.
Yeah. He's talked about it.
But there's a guy.
Let's just refer to him as Jesse's friend.
Jesse's
a friend of Jesse Greening's.
Jesse's got a lot of buddies, so it'd be hard to figure out.
Right.
But this is one of Jesse's friends
who supplied this bourbon.
Right.
And it's good. It's an oddball because it's out of Nebraska, right? Is that where?
Yeah. What's the name of it?
Cut Spiked Distillery. And it's it doesn't really give you the proof, does it?
Has to.
It gives you 43% alcohol, Josh.
96.
Okay, there you go. And
sure it's not 86?
Distinguished taste of
You're right.
Spikes.
Okay. Glad you're
comes from the premium greens and limestone.
I started doing it in my head when you were catching it.
Nebraska.
Yeah, 86 proof.
Aged in sharp
low proof
American oak barrels for an exceptional finish. CutSpikeDistillery.com. I quite liked it. It was super sweet, easy drinker.
It makes sense for the proof. I didn't realize it was that low.
Yeah.
I must have been a bitch yesterday because it was burning when I was drinking it. Yeah.
I'd probably hit that with a 7.6, but again, Jesse's friend, his personality is everything. So just again,
does that bring it up or knock it down?
His personality carries him, right? So that's gonna carry, that sticks with that. As I taste that, I just think of like that Saturday Night Special 3500 stall torque converter he's always talking about. So I'm gonna bump it up.
I'm about to put a chassis under my Tahoe. No, you ain't. You've been about to.
That's worth 0.1. We're going. What did I say? 7.7, 7.8.
Yeah, 7.7.
Yeah, all right. So 7.8 because the
I'm going to
personality bump.
I'm gonna rate. I'm gonna do this like alcohol by volume and proof.
Okay.
I'm gonna rate his personality as alcohol by volume, right? And I'll double it.
That goes up with the alcohol
And
volume.
I'll double it for the rating. I'm gonna give his like conversation wise and personality and hanging out
One of the best.
under an hour. Shit, he's a 7, right? Over an hour, that shit starts dropping rapidly. Hour 15, he's a 3.5.
It's a good thing he doesn't listen to this.
So
He
I'm gonna
listens
give
to every episode.
I give his personality a 3.5, right? And
That's
and I'm gonna give it.
That's a shot.
I'm gonna give him a set, so it'll be a 7 on the whiskey.
Okay. That's hard.
You buy a damn chassis.
Yeah, he loses.
I guess
points
I'm
there.
not as ruthless as you. You know, I just enjoy his
I don't mind if
Yeah,
somebody's
he's
not.
generally nice to people.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody says that. Like I run into people all the time. Yeah, Jeremy guy. You tell him he's a nice guy.
Is that generally what people
Nobody
say?
ever says that.
Seriously?
Nobody's ever.
What do they say?
I don't mind that he hasn't bought a chassis. There's a lot of guys that haven't bought a chassis. There's a lot of people that we know that we're friends with that haven't bought a. What I don't like is him always saying he's gonna.
Yeah.
Just we could hang out forever and ever, and we could be best friends.
Just
If you
don't
just
say
say, "Guess what, dude? I ain't never buying shit." Okay, fucking A. Let's party. Let's party and have a good time. I hope he's listening.
He is.
He's gonna take it out on you.
No, he's not. I
Yes.
said nice thing. I was complimentary.
He knows you're lying though.
I'm not. Dude, that was from the heart.
What you got burned by it?
I did. Yeah, he left a bad taste in my mouth that was still burning. I don't know.
Oh,
Where are you guys at? I need a gauge
I was
here.
7.7 and then the 0.1 on the personality, so we went 7.8.
I'll go 7.5.
7.5
That's not bad.
for Mike, the non-customer.
Cousin Mike.
It is good though. Cut Spike Distillery. If you could find this, it's definitely one to drink on.
If I remember correct, we had a couple cocktails in us. We were hanging out my dad's truck, and he handed it to us, and I think it's a buddy of his.
Is it?
I think.
It's good shit. Single malt. It's right there. Got a website.
Have we talked about
CutSpikeDistillery.com.
the temperature sensor in Jeff's truck? Could be the coolest thing ever.
The cooler temp sensor.
Yeah.
Oh,
That is a
They wired a temp
Dakota
sensor
Digital
into the cooler and
on the gauge. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, old dad's just a fucking legend. And
he is.
good dude.
We were smoking some cigars there at Columbus.
Just cigars.
Yeah, just cigars. Yeah, Don wasn't around. I don't know what Columbus's laws are either compared to Arizona.
Did he show you his new socks?
I've seen them. Same old socks. Oh, man. Great episode.
It was good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping on his website some more, making some purchases. You get lost on that, dude.
I think I have a depressed garage after being on his website.
Tune it up. Jump on there. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to leverage these relationships.
Yeah, those-
Again, you're like, dude, the exposure that we've given you. I'm gonna need like
That diamond plate and
15%.
checkerboard's
I was
been up
waiting
there.
the whole
It's been up there for 3 years. It's time to make a change.
I thank you for not bringing that up.
They've got the mid-height race ramps too.
I was thinking about it through it. And I was like, this is not. People are going to start noticing little bit of changes, right? So we're going to change some things up at the podcast going out through the rest of the year. One of the big things that we're going to start changing, and we're going to start ending every podcast with maybe some words of affirmation for each other. Just one little positive, nice thing we do on the way out.
No, we're not.
That's not gonna happen, dude.
No.
So next episode, we'll start that.
Yeah.
All right.
For this episode, I just hate your face.
See you again
I
next
have a rare one.
What do you got?
Positive?
No.
If you Okay.
Oh,
I switched it
All
up.
right. If you were about to pull out the same fucking knife,
It's been a fucking
it's been
while.
a fucking bit.
Yeah.
It's been a fucking bit. I don't even think I got the overhead camera. I'm gonna have to turn that on.
Let's see that fucker. A little Tonto blade?
Yeah. I found this on Instagram all by myself.
No, Spencer.
No, he copied me 100%. No,
is that the one that Spencer bought after you bought yours?
Yeah, he totally saw it. He's like, I've got to get one of those.
That's
When's the
thing
next
about
drop?
Spencer's
He's been
always,
talking
he's
about
always
that.
doing stuff
I know.
like that.
Like he grew a mustache because like I had one and it was cool.
That's a good knife.
What's this? EMP?
It's the whole alphabet.
EMP EDC.
EDC.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Good weight.
love the machining. The action's killer. Flip it over. Check out like the milling on the pocket clip. Lines up with all the.
That's my
milling
blade
on
style
there.
right there. That's
Tonto blade.
it's
Yeah, like
well. This is a
finish.
It's a Tonto inspired. Lot straighter at little chisel like.
Old Faithful there. Been a while.
That thing's been used.
Yeah,
Shit.
it's been a while since that fucker's been busted.
That's the one that Tim got, and then you went and got it after that, isn't it? So Spencer copied Phil, and then you copied Tim. That's cool. The fact that you guys can share
We
something
don't
like
have.
that.
Let's just not do this knife thing anymore. We'll edit this whole thing out because we're not doing the knife that was last season.
EMP EDC, that shit's
They're
fucking
doing some
nice.
really cool shit.
Yeah,
Good knife.
we should have him on the podcast.
That's a fucking.
good one.
That's got a good hand feel.
Yeah.
Perfectly weighted. I like
The
that.
button super easy, fires out, and it's solid.
It was just yesterday. We were in your office. I was telling Phil that basically he's had a knife so long he had to do a full frame off restoration on it. It's like a fucking NOS barn find
I had to replace all the springs inside.
really?
2 of them cracked. It wouldn't open anymore.
on the PGS.
Clearly, Spencer found this because this is too cool for you to bring to the table. That you just went out and discovered this.
We found it at the same
All
time.
right, we'll go with that.
say.
Right. That happens sometimes.
It does. We'll see you again next week.